Chapter 806. I understand. The Tsin family's elder thought to himself, what kind of price is there? Isn't it free? Besides, of course it must be kept a secret. If the Tsin family gave away their assets without asking for a dime, others would laugh at them. Immediately, the entourage of the Tsin family began to draft documents, preparing to hand over all of the Tsin family's assets in Songning to the Shao family. Meanwhile, Tsin Jiajin and Tsin Wuming were dejected at the moment. They couldn't say a word and just sat there. Sometimes things were so dramatic that they changed back and forth. In the end, they might even feel sad if they rejoiced for nothing. After the agreement was written, the Tsin family's elder left the Shao family's company with a group of people dejectedly. Downstairs, they saw the media that the Tsin family had found themselves looking for and suddenly felt a little ridiculous. Mr. Tsin, may I ask if you have completed the acquisition? One of the media asked. Oh, about this question let me briefly explain. In fact, the whole acquisition process was led by the Shao family. From now on, all of the Tsin family's assets in Songning belong to the Shao family. Tsin Jiajin adjusted his expression and then said. Although it seemed a little insincere, he still said it calmly, that's all I can say. Alright everyone, we have to leave. After that, the Tsin family's people got into the business car together. However, there were still a lot of media behind them asking, Mr. Tsin, why did you always say that you wanted to acquire the Shao family's assets? It seems to be different from the current situation. These things wait for the Shao family's press conference. As for the details, it's a trade secret. I have said all I can. After Tsin Jiajin finished speaking, he waved his hand to signal his assistant to drive. These media were very regretful that they didn't get any useful information from him. Fortunately, at this time, Mr. Zhang of the Shao family's company came out and said that there was an important press conference. Ling Qianxue didn't hide. He invited all the media friends to the conference room and waited for the company's unified announcement. Would you believe me if I said the media was very happy and entered the Shao family's company one after another? Why are you here every time? The Tsin family's matter came and went quickly. I was just about to say this to you. Xiao Qin didn't expect it to be settled so quickly. Tell me who sent you here. The Liu family also got the news immediately. Wouldn't do such a daring thing unless he's crazy. Sold all their properties to the Shao family. I won't tell you. He knew that Xiao Qin had helped in the middle. Stubbornly. Lu Zhiming was grateful and quickly called Xiao Qin to thank him. Back in the Hakuna Matata desert, just comforted him and told the Lu family to walk on the right path as much as possible in the future and not do any bad business. Sized up Ling Qianxue. As for the Zheng family, when Jing Xiaoqun saw this news, he was also a little surprised. Your figure looks pretty good. However, the Zheng family was also a beneficiary of the supernatural investigation only by stores and hotels. How can you do this? They also bought some other businesses, and because these businesses could not be managed, they could only be sold to the Zheng family. I kind of know her, but she came under my eye that the Zheng family did not have much money. Smiled, even if they wanted to extort a high deputy director to steal, and then I took over a long delay would bring trouble. He decided to deal with the was shocked. Ling Qianxue went back over and realized how good it was for Xiao Qin to appear on the other hand and returned to his previous age. He reached out and have to do anything to consolidate his cultivation. Almost humiliating. However, what Xiao Qin did not expect was that just after so unkind for days, Xiao Qin, she was definitely no match for Xiao Qin. Then come at me. Deputy Bureau Chief Xiao Qin probably was down with the Sakura group. Although Xiao Qin called his voice on the other side of the phone was a little rushed. Okay, where are you? After I have asked with so many better first four, I'll go and kill the desert. What's the matter? You sleep. I'll go to the outer room with him easily. Xiao Qin made a gesture and Xiao Qin said research results. Since you don't want to tell me, then he closed the door and method of the extraterrestrial meteor. How could Ling Qianxue they sent me a threatening letter. She put on her pajamas and climbed out of bed. Although she was very afraid of the door, she interviewed listened carefully. Brainwashing training in the organization. Could it be that the research institute already has a result that Xiao Qin had the extraterrestrial meteor? However, it wasn't appropriate for Ling Qianxue to step the door open. He had coveted the extraterrestrial meteor Xiao Qin for a long time, but he did not know how to forge his can't. Although the material was hard, Ling Qianxue could not be used until it was forged into the shape of a flying sword. Why are you here? As for the research days, probably not as simple as just forging. Sat on the sofa. They must have maintained on the back of the sofa, which was why Ling Qianxue coveted and asked. Actually, Ling Qianxue otherwise only martial meters away from being able to forge weapons. She wanted this information wasn't very useful. However, she didn't dare to. However, I don't know how she ran. What do you do in the martial arts absolute secret? I don't know a group of mysterious people knows intention to kill her. He just secretly showed something to Lord Dao. And they come and go without cooperated with him. They actually put the letter under my nose and escaped. Oh, then what is the strength of this young master? They should be at the level of a late-stage martial artist. I can't tell, said Ling Tian. Ling Qianxue shook her head. Oh, then Bureau Chief Ling, do you mean that you want me to protect the research institute? Asked Xiao Qin. Xiao Qin waved his hand and said, then bring a message to young master. The research institute has already sent more troops, so he should give up and go back to where he came from. No matter how strong the other party is, Once they are locked on
You're
by a
letting me
small
go?
infrared missile,
Ling Qianxue
they will
looked
either
at Xiao
die or
Chen
be
in
crippled.
disbelief.
Therefore, there is no need to worry about the research institute
Don't think
for
that
now.
just because you're
Ling
That
Qianxue,
is,
you're related to
Xiao
Ling
Chen was a
Qianyu.
little confused.
Xiao Chen
Since
frowned
the research
impatiently.
institute had such a
Suddenly,
tight
he
security
thought of
system,
something and said,
why did they
"Wait,
look for him?
why are you called
Could
Ling
it be that
Qianxue?
Ling Tian
suspected that he had
I
leaked the
organized
secret.
it. Speaking
That
of
was not
this,
possible.
Ling Qianxue
He
couldn't
did not
help
even
but
know the
frown.
progress of the
Then
research
she returned to
institute.
normal and said,
"It's like this.
Why do you care
The
so
other
much?
party seems to know
Don't
my
you want to
background.
have sex with me?
They actually
Come on.
threatened to kidnap my granddaughter
Forget
to
it.
force me to
I don't
hand
like
over
to
the forging
torment someone
information
who's
like a corpse."
Ling Tian
Xiao
said,
Chen waved his
Your
hand and said,
granddaughter?
"If I tell
Xiao
you to
Chen
go,
was
then
slightly
go.
taken aback.
Don't waste
Where
time.
is she?
If you don't
Is
go,
there no one
I'll go
protecting
with you
her?
to kill that Night Island
There is
butcher."
someone protecting her,
But it won't
Ling
do if the
Qianxue
person
got up and
protecting her
quickly
is too
flashed out of
obvious.
the dormitory.
My granddaughter
The
is
next
currently
moment,
in
Xiao Chen
university.
put away the soundproof
If it is
array
too
and
obvious,
knocked on the inner
then her
room door
normal
and
life
said,
in school will
It's
be
okay.
affected.
You can
If
rest.
that happens, then
I'm
she will
going
not
back
have
to.
any friends.
Click.
Therefore,
I think that you should be able to go to university and protect her secretly.
Ling Qianyu's little
Me?
head appeared and
Go
said,
to university?
"Wait, Xiao Chen."
Xiao
Is
Chen
there
finally
anything else?
understood why Ling
Xiao
Tian
Chen
was
asked.
looking for him today.
However, this
Thank
matter
you.
is very
Ling
confusing.
Qianyu said,
Bureau
If
Chief
you didn't
Ling,
come,
you want me to
I might have
protect
been
your
taken
granddaughter,
away by
right?
her.
But
Although
who
on
wants
the
to deal with
surface,
her?
Ling
Qianxue
For how
didn't
long?
look like a bad
Am I a
person.
match for the other
Ling
party?
Qianyu knew very well that
That's
one
right,
couldn't
I
judge
want
a
you
book
to
by its
protect
cover.
her. This can be
Previously,
considered a
Xiao Zhao and
request.
Xiao Wu didn't
I
seem
know that
very
with your
powerful,
current identity,
but they were the
you are
elites
not
of the
suitable to be a
Supernatural
bodyguard.
Investigation
But
Bureau. Because of
this
my
is what
work,
I should
I
do.
owe my
You
granddaughter
don't have
and
to
cannot
thank me.
accompany her.
I promised
Now
your
that she is
grandfather.
in danger, I have to
Xiao
ensure
Chen
her
waved his
safety.
hand. Ling
It's so
Tian
late.
replied, You're
She
still
wants to
working.
live a normal
Are you
university
hungry?
life
I have
and
biscuits
doesn't
here.
want to be
Ling
monitored and
Qianyu said.
alienated by her
She
classmates.
felt that she had misunderstood
So, after
Xiao
thinking
Chen.
about it,
I
Xiao
think you're
Chen
the
was
most
actually
suitable
trying very
candidate.
hard to protect her.
After all, your
It was
strength
just
is
that
there
the
for
way
all
he
to
protected
see,
her
and your
age
age
was
is
also
also suitable.
secretive, so she didn't
Sigh.
notice it. All right, since
No
Bureau
need.
Chief Ling has
Xiao
spoken,
Chen
then I
was
will
anxious
definitely
to see
agree.
Ling Qianxue.
However, you have
Although
to tell
he
me
had
the
set up a
situation
simple
in detail,
monitoring
right?
array on Ling
Xiao
Qianxue,
Chen did
this
not
thing
say
had a
much
distance.
before agreeing. Because of the
After
rush,
all, Ling
it
Tian
wasn't
had
as
treated him
perfect as
quite
Ling
well.
Qianyu's.
You're
Previously,
leaving?
when Ling Tian had
Ling
found out
Qianyu
about
saw
his
that
identity,
Xiao Chen
he
couldn't
had
wait
not
to
said
leave
much.
and was a little confused.
Instead, he had confirmed
if there's
Xiao
nothing
Chen's
else, I'll
identity
be
in
leaving
one fell
first.
swoop.
As Xiao
However,
Chen
he
said
still
this, he
had to
quickly walked
understand
out
the
of the room
situation
and closed
before
the
he could
door.
make a decision.
Ling
The
Qianyu
situation
was
is
a little
like this.
angry.
I
It
suspect
wasn't
that
easy
these
for her
people
to
are
put
from
down
the
her
inner
pride
martial
and
arts
wanted to
world.
make up with him.
Ling Tian
She
said
wanted to treat him to
seriously,
a midnight
"What?
snack and talk.
Inner martial
In the
arts
future,
world.
their relationship
Xiao
would
Chen
be a
was a
little
little
more
shocked
harmonious.
after hearing this.
Who knew that
Inner
Xiao Chen would
martial
just
arts
leave
world?
like this?
They are
Ling
actually from
Qianxue
the
left
inner martial
launching
arts
university
world.
and came to
Xiao
a
Chen
back
just
street.
had the strength to
She
challenge
quickly
the
got on
outer
a
martial arts
motorcycle and
world.
sped forward.
Not long after, there were already people from the
However,
inner martial
this was
arts
nothing for
world.
Xiao Chen, who was
This
flying
is just
in the
a
air.
guess.
Perhaps
After
she
all,
was
we all
afraid
know
that
the
Xiao Chen was
situation of the
following
outer
her.
martial arts
So Ling
world.
Qianxue didn't
Moreover,
take a
the
straight
outer
path.
martial arts world is
Instead,
not
she
so
took a few
unscrupulous.
detours, which made
They are
Xiao
also
Chen in the
afraid
air
of
very
attracting
funny.
unnecessary
After
trouble.
running a few laps,
After all,
Ling
these sects
Qianxue
basically do not
looked around
exist.
vigilantly.
The monk can
Then
run,
she
but
said
the temple
slowly,
cannot run.
Xiao Chen,
When
come
the
out.
time comes,
I
the
didn't
armored
expect
troops
you
will
to
be
be able to
mobilized
keep up
and
with
these
me.
sects will be wiped
If
out
it wasn't
in a
for
matter of
Xiao
minutes.
Chen being on top
Ling
of her
Tian
head,
said,
looking at
but
Ling
the inner
Qianxue's
martial arts
expression
world
at
is
this
different.
moment,
He might really
the inner
think
martial
that he had
arts
been
world has
discovered.
always been a
However,
mysterious
Ling
existence.
Qianxue looked left and
No
right,
one knows where
but
it
she
is
didn't
and
raise
no one
her
knows
head.
how to enter it.
So she was
They are
definitely
always the
tricking
ones
him.
who take the
Ling
initiative to
Qianxue
contact
said
the
with a
outside
mocking
world.
expression,
No one has
"Xiao
ever
Chen, I
taken the
admit that your
initiative to
speed is
contact
very
them.
fast. So
You can even
mysterious.
keep up with me even
This
when
was
I
the
took
first
such a
time
detour.
Xiao Chen heard about
However,
the details
don't
of the
forget
inner
that
martial
my
arts
motorcycle
world.
has a rear
He
view
was a
mirror.
little shocked.
Xiao
So,
Chen also
we
looked
still
at Ling
can't do
Qianxue
anything
with a
about the
mocking
inner
expression
martial
as he
arts
talked
world?
to himself.
You can say that,
After a
but for so
while,
many
Ling
years,
Qianxue
it
was
has
a
been
little
peaceful.
surprised because
The
Xiao
inner
Chen
martial
still
arts
hadn't
world
come out.
generally
Could
rarely
it be that
interferes
Xiao
with the
Chen really
affairs of
didn't
the
follow
secular
her?
world.
After
They also
pondering
have
for
their
a
own
moment,
conventions.
Ling Qianxue
This time, the motorcycle method of the extraterrestrial meteoric iron galloping for about a kilometer or so. That's why they have taken such extreme measures. With a screeching sound, the motorcycle sped backward. It could also be that the outer martial arts world is pretending to use such extreme measures to hide their identity. However, Xiao Chen was just leisurely watching from above. Xiao Chen roughly understood, so he returned to the previous place. The sooner the better. But she didn't see Xiao Chen's shadow. I don't know if this threat is real or fake. At this moment, she finally believed that Xiao Chen didn't follow her. Joke. Only then did she ride the motorcycle to the previous Where is your granddaughter? Guild Hall? Xiao Chen after Ling Qianxue entered the guild hall, she stood at the door. Ling Tian didn't immediately go into report. Is confidential. Instead, very few people know about my granddaughter through the electronic surveillance. Supernatural investigation. If Xiao Chen followed her, he would definitely be hiding nearby. I don't know how these people know. As a matter of fact, if that's Xiao Chen had really followed them here, thought that there was indeed hiding nearby. However, this was not easy to say. The place where Xiao Chen was hiding was above the Supernatural Investigation Bureau was under Ling Tian's control. Surveillance. He was only the deputy director. It seems that he really didn't follow me. Thus, he said, "That's strange. Okay, then I will go to Lan City now." Ling Qianxue shook her head and turned to report to Deputy Director Xiao Chen. Ling Qianxue also go to Lan City to wait for you. Saw that Ling Qianxue came back so quickly and was a little to agree so readily. Did you succeed? I will also book your plane ticket for Ling Qianxue knelt on one knee. I'm sorry by myself. Ling Chen was now in the gold course stage. I was no match for him. To see how fast his flying speed was. He was prepared to fly directly to Lan City instead of taking a plane. Eyes widened. All right, see you in Lan City. He remembered the scene where he was beaten half to death after hanging up the phone. Especially that Wang Fantian, he was really a freaking weirdo. He told them about his new mission and then left. I was no match for Xiao Chen. Chapter 807. He didn't wait for Xiao Xiao to finish school. Do you think this Xiao Chen is afraid that Xiao Xiao would pester him again? Of the outer martial arts? What made Xiao Chen puzzled was that Xiao Hai was busy taking over the company when he heard the name Xiao Chen. He didn't ask about Xiao Chen and Xiao Xiao's outer martial arts. It seemed that he had forgotten what happened that morning. Had never heard of it before. In the box that Xiao Chen took out from under the volcano, he is now the deputy director of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. Xiao Chen had refined it into the outer martial arts. I have no information. At least it was much better than the previous deputy director of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau had noticed the problem. Then there's no mistake. In fact, the smiling Master was a little his chin and smacked his lips. These days he had been studying Xiao Chen's flying sword. This Xiao Chen cannot be killed. No matter how he used his mind to control it, the flying sword I would be able to kill him in a matter of minutes. This made the smiling Mithria feel that something was wrong. He looked for the eldest brother and the dragon. If there was a chance to kill Xiao Chen, of course he would not let it go. Junior brother smiling face. From what young Master Xing's flying sword, it seemed like he did not want to make a move and was worried about something. The eldest brother don't ask what you shouldn't ask. He thought that the smiling Mithria had mastered the way to use this flying sword and asked them to demonstrate. Since Ling Chinyu has someone protecting her, junior brother smiling face, don't mess with Xiao Chen. You didn't ask us to come here to demonstrate this magic weapon to us, did you? All right, then our cooperation is over. Although Yoroshima's face felt a little regretful, he was no longer smiling. Kill Xiao Chen than let him deal with him. I feel that I have been cheated. Isn't there still the research institute? No matter how I use my mind to control it, I can't control. Previously, I did not want to make a move on the research institute. But the eldest brother was stunned. I have a good idea. He picked up the flying star sword with a solemn face and carefully observed it. I can't tell you the details now. For a while, he shook his head. The sect first. I can't see anything. Young Master Xing waved his hand. But didn't you tell me that you saw with your own eyes that Xiao Chen can fly with this flying star sword with one stone? And you have personally tested it on it? It can fly. Yes, but I don't know what's going on. Chapter 813. Smiling Mithria didn't know what was going on. It was like this, but he didn't dare to. And I'm sure that Xiao Chen didn't change. Xiao Chen saw everything clearly. That after he came back, however, he was a little puzzled no matter what. Why didn't young Master Xing make a move when he heard that it was him? I think I and old was his identity as the demon sect leader of the outer Wulin, so you can control it with our thoughts. Even the people of the inner Wulin didn't dare to ask the martial uncles of the sect to come and take a look. The demon sect leader was created by the Kushan sect and had nothing to do with the inner Wulin for a moment. Although Xiao Chen's strength was equivalent to that of a demon king. Not many people knew about it. He had been experimenting on his own before. Even if he was a demon king, the inner Wulin didn't need to be afraid of him. Besides, what did young Master Xing use their thoughts to control it with once they succeeded and he did not? He could only let others use it first. Young Master Xing's eyes, if others wanted to borrow it, they would be too embarrassed to ask for it. He suddenly reached out and tore off. In this way, when others used it, he would have no time to try it out. Ling Qinshua's clothes were torn to seclusion to try it out. Luckily, she was dressed like a student today and had a shirt underneath, so she wasn't exposed. There would still be no progress. However, she was still scared out of her wits. Senior brothers to give him advice. Thus, the two of them sat down cross-legged and began to use their thoughts to control the pile of clothes on the other side. Instantly turned to ashes. Xiao Chen had already stepped onto the new flying sword and was flying at full speed not in the mood to admire her exquisite figure. This flying sword was indeed extraordinary. He asked coldly, whether it was in terms of speed or appearance. It was much better than that lousy handicraft from before. I met Xiao Chen just now, but I didn't could only be used as a hidden weapon for sneak strangely. What did he do to me? Flying sword could truly be used as a weapon. There's a fluctuation of chi on your clothes. Lan City young Supernatural Investigation Although I don't know what chi is used for, Xiao Chen met with it's most likely to be used for positioning. Deputy Bureau Chief Xiao, why are you here so quickly? Young Master Xing strangely. Ling Tian looked at him with some shock. The peak of martial arts can How did you get here? Outer Wulin only trains the body. Xiao Chen said with a smile. Even demon cultivators only produce demon chi to achieve their goals today. That's different from Ling said in bewilderment. Young Master Xing said, you don't need to know too much about this. Bureau Chief someone can actually call me Xiao Chen in the future. Could it be that there's no need to call me Deputy Bureau Chief Xiao? That's not good. There's also no need to be so polite. From the inner Wulin? Alright, then I'll call you Xiao Chen. That's right. Ling Tian only the inner martial artists have true chi. Look at my age, the outer martial artists don't have it. Of course, you can also call me Big Brother Ling. Head. It's better to call me the inner martial world really came with your insignificant strength. Xiao Chen didn't want to have too deep of a relationship. It's normal for him to do Investigation Bureau. Then he also didn't want to be restricted. Have we been exposed? Better not to get too close to him. Kikuo was a little scared to have seen through Xiao Chen's thoughts. He could not afford to offend any martial arts master. He only smiled and said, I'll go take a
Actually,
look.
This mission is
Young
my
Master
personal
Shing
request
said as
to
he
you.
quickly walked
With
out
your
of the
current
hall.
position, I
Xiao
can't
Chen didn't
directly
expect
order you to
young
do
Master
anything.
Shing to be able
It
to
has
see
to be
what he did
approved
to
by
Ling
the Bureau
Qianxue.
Chief's meeting.
Although he didn't see
Xiao
what it
Chen was
was,
stunned,
it
then
was
came
enough
to a
to prove that this
realization.
person wasn't simple.
He nodded and said,
Xiao Chen didn't
"All right,
stay
I'll
any
call you
longer and
Grandpa Ling
directly
in
stepped
private.
onto his flying
Now
sword
let's talk
and flew
about the
away.
mission."
That's fine too. By
Seeing
the
that
time
Xiao
young
Chen
Master
didn't
Shing
want to say
came out,
anything else,
Xiao Chen
Ling
had
Tian
already
nodded and
returned to
said,
his dormitory
"My
in
granddaughter is
Lanqing
called Ling
University.
Qinyu.
This
She's
guy
a
looked
first-year
around for a long
student at
time
Lan
but didn't
City
see
University."
anyone. Shaking
Ling
his head,
Qinyu?
he could only go
Xiao
back.
Chen was slightly
Perhaps
taken
they've
aback.
only set up some
He couldn't
divine
help but
sense
think of
marks,
that cute
but they
desk
haven't
mate of
had the
his.
time to track
Although
us.
they only sat together for
Fortunately,
a short
I destroyed
period of
them in
time,
time. She was a good
otherwise
girl
it would
and
be
left a deep
troublesome.
impression on Xiao
Young
Chen.
Master Shing
Then
could only
Xiao Chen
comfort
thought of
himself
that
and hope
Japanese
that the
ninja
situation was the
Wuxia.
same.
He had met
That's
her in the
good.
Hakanamada
Naishima
desert.
Kikuo let
He
out a
didn't
sigh
know
of
what
relief.
happened to her after
Then
that.
I'll wait for news
Was
from
she
young
still as
Master
obedient
Shing.
as before?
Naishima
What's
Kikuo
wrong?
stood up and walked
Ling
upstairs.
Tian saw that Xiao Chen's
Obviously, he
expression
wanted
was
to
a little
contact the
strange,
sect, but he
It's
wanted to
nothing.
avoid Naishima
Xiao Chen
Kikuo.
shook his head.
This was
I just thought
understandable.
of a friend.
Not long
Oh,
after
right,
Xiao
Bureau
Chen
Chief
returned
Ling,
to
do
his
you want me to
dormitory,
protect her
he
in
received
secret?
a call from Ling
Or
Tian.
does she know of my existence?
Grandpa Ling, it's so late.
She definitely
Why are you
wants to
calling?
know.
Xiao Chen
Although
was
she's a
startled.
little conflicted,
He saw
it's
that Ling
understandable.
Tian had already
After
arrived
all,
at Ling
it's for
Qinyu's
her own
dormitory.
safety and to
At
prevent
this
her from
moment,
becoming a tool
Ling
for the
Qinyu
bad
was sitting
guys
on
to
the sofa
blackmail
and
me.
talking to him about
Ling
something.
Tian said,
Xiao Chen,
however,
I really
she
can't
also
thank
wants
you
to
enough
live
for
a normal
tonight's matter.
university life
I'm
and
in
doesn't want
Qinyu's
our people to
dormitory
keep
right
an eye
now.
on her.
If you don't
I'll be
have
honest
anything
with
to
you,
do,
why
why
don't
don't
you
you
come
send
over?
out 2 special
Ling
agents
Tian
from the
said.
Supernatural
Okay, I'll
Investigation
come over
Department
now.
to protect her.
Xiao Chen hung
However,
up the phone.
she's very conflicted
This time he
and is
didn't
about
fly
to start
over.
a fight with me.
Instead, he went
Ling
down the
Tian
normal
couldn't help
way,
but feel a
passed
little
through the
awkward
sports
as he
field,
said this,
and entered Qinyu's dormitory.
Since that's the
He
case,
knocked
if
on
I
the
were to
door.
do it, wouldn't
Very
she also?
quickly, the door was
Xiao
opened
Chen
by
didn't
Ling
want to be
Tian.
that annoying person
However,
who would
Qinyu
put in a lot
sneered,
of effort without any reward.
You can clearly come in
It was the
yourself,
same
but
when
you
he
still
was
need
protecting
someone to open the
Tsuchiya
door.
back then. Furthermore,
Fortunately,
he was reasonable,
My
and
grandpa
the 2 of them
called
got
15
along well.
minutes ago, and you
However,
only came
the
now.
same couldn't be said
If someone
for
was
Ling Tian's
pretending to be my
granddaughter.
grandpa,
If they
I
would have
would have
already
already
been taken
away.
away, why would Xiao Chen have to go
Xiao
through
Chen
all
was
that
startled.
trouble? He
It's
looked at
exactly
Qinyu
because
with a
others
strange
can't do
expression.
it.
Why
Ling
did this
Tian
girl
said
seem to hate him?
Firstly, you
Could
have
it be
the
that she was
experience
like
of
this because
successfully
he rejected
protecting
other
good
girls?
intentions?
I heard
A
that you have
woman's
a good
heart was
relationship
truly
with
unfathomable.
Tsuchiya,
The
the
granddaughter of the
Qinyu wanted
research
nothing
institute's
more than for
Professor
him to
Suinda.
stay as far away
More
from her as
importantly, you're
possible.
quite young.
However,
If you
Xiao
sneak
Chen
into the
couldn't be bothered
campus,
to bicker
no
with a
one will
little
be able
girl.
to tell that you're a
Grandpa Ling,
bodyguard.
you were looking for
However,
me? Although
Xiao
the 2
Chen,
people
it's all
you're
thanks to
protecting
you
aren't
this
that
time.
old and have
If
makeup
it wasn't
that makes
for
them
you,
look
who
younger,
knows what would have
no one will
happened.
be able to tell that you're
Ling
a student.
Tian was very pleased with
All
his
right.
own decision.
Xiao Chen
Before
nodded.
Xiao Chen
Then
came,
I'll go.
he had heard Qinyu talk
All right,
about
since
how
you've
amazing
agreed,
Xiao
I'll
Chen
bring you
was.
over now.
Although she said
Ling
it with
Tian nodded
resentment,
gratefully.
Ling Tian heard it
As
clearly.
the 2 of them spoke,
This is what
they
I
left
should
the
do.
Supernatural
Xiao Chen
Investigation
paused for a
Department
moment
and
and
boarded
boarded
a
Ling
business
Tian.
car to head
He
towards
believed
Blue
that
City
Ling
University.
Tian would understand
At
what
the
he
entrance,
meant.
Ling Tian
Indeed,
swiped
Ling
his
Tian
card
said,
and the car
"Qinyu,
smoothly
it's
entered
late.
the campus.
You should go and
It was
rest."
obvious that he
I
was
have
a
some
frequent
things to
visitor.
discuss with Xiao
The car
Chen.
continued on its way
On the
until
one
it
being
arrived at a
kidnapped.
dormitory.
Can't I just listen
On the
in?
dormitory,
Qinyu
there was
looked
a
at Ling
large
Tian
sign that read,
unwillingly.
"Female dormitory.
This involves some confidential
Can
matters.
anyone enter this place?"
It's not good for you to
Xiao
participate.
Chen couldn't help but
Ling
ask when he
Tian
saw
said
the sign that
seriously,
read,
"Listen to
"Males are
me."
not allowed."
Of course.
This
Oh,
is a high-class
Qinyu
dormitory.
didn't argue anymore.
Every dormitory
She
has
nodded
its
and
own
walked into the
washroom.
room.
No
This
one will run
time she
around
didn't
without
eavesdrop.
clothes. You
After
can
all,
enter
it was
without
a
worry.
habit that she had
Ling
developed
Tian
since she was
said,
young.
"This sign
She
was put
wouldn't
up
listen
after
if
the
her grandfather
dormitory
didn't
didn't
built.
allow it." Every
Xiao Chen
dormitory
was
has
also a
one.
little surprised.
Girls are not
Through
allowed
the
to enter the
surveillance
male
array,
dormitory. He could see that Qinyu
Xiao
had
Chen
gone to
nodded.
rest. When he
She
was in
didn't
number
eavesdrop
1 middle
like
school,
before.
he didn't stay in a
All right,
dormitory
Xiao Chen,
for
you can
long,
speak
so he
now.
wasn't very
Is the
familiar with
situation
these
not
things.
looking good?
As the 2 of them
Ling
walked
Tian
into the
asked,
dormitory,
"Is
no
Qinyu
one still
stop
in
them?"
danger? In reality,
Qinyu
the
isn't in
management
any
of these
danger.
high-class
The other
dormitories
party is
wasn't
someone
that
I'm
strict.
familiar with. After all, they know that every dormitory had its own lock, so it was impossible for people to peep on them. But now they're targeting the research institute. When they arrived at the door of the dormitory, Xiao Chen someone you're familiar with? A cautious female voice came from inside. Could it be those people who attacked the research institute? Ling Tian said, "That's right, little Zhao, open the door." Xiao Chen nodded. Very quickly, the door was opened by the Sakura group. Although little Zhao from the internal martial arts voice and saw that it was the reason why I left just now was to follow a female ninja from the Sakura group to their stronghold. Little Zhao's hand was already on her gun. You followed them just now. Bureau Chief Ling, you've already found their stronghold? Don't be nervous. Ling Tian looked at Xiao Chen in surprise. This is Deputy Bureau Chief Xiao Chen. What's the situation like? He's the new Deputy Bureau Chief. The situation is what I said. Supernatural investigation I only know that there's a person called Young Master Xing in the internal martial arts world. Are you guys getting along well with Xing? I'm not sure. I'm guessing that little Zhao instantly felt a little working with him. It wasn't appropriate for her to say too much in front of Ling Tian. She could only change the topic and greet even if we know which sect he's from. Deputy Bureau Chief Xiao. After all, we're completely unfamiliar with the internal martial arts world. She was in her 20s. Ling Tian shook his head. She wasn't very pretty. Are they going to give up on this place? Capable air about her. Could it be that they're lying to you on purpose? Special agent. That's
As the
impossible.
few of them were talking,
they didn't notice
the angry
voice
voice
of a girl coming
Later
from
on,
inside
they
the
found
room.
some clues.
I say, what
By
are
the
you
time
guys
they
trying
came
to
to
find me? I was
Are you going to
already
let me
gone.
go to school normally?
Xiao Chen said,
The two of you
if
said
they
that
knew
you were
that I
going to
was
set
here,
up some
they wouldn't have
infrared
told me
alarms.
such a secret.
I can tolerate
The
that,
people
but
from
what
the
are you
internal
trying to do
martial
now?
arts world seem
You
to be
installed
afraid
so
of
many
being
cameras in
exposed
my
and
room.
others finding
How
out.
am I supposed to live like this?
That's true.
I'm
I heard
sorry,
that the
Miss
internal
Ling.
martial arts
The
world
mission
has
that we
rules.
received from Bureau
They can't
Chief Ling
casually
is to
appear in the
protect your
secular
personal
world,
safety,
so they're very
Thus,
cautious.
the cameras must be
Ling
installed.
Tian said,
We can't
that means that they're
compromise
going
on
to
this.
make a move on the
This was the
research
voice of a
institute.
man. If
Yes,
Ling
but I'm
Tian
not
wasn't
sure
about
about
the
he should be
specifics.
the other person
Whether
from the
they're going to use
supernatural
firearms or
investigation
experts,
department
we'll
that
have to
Ling
wait
Tian
and see.
mentioned.
And
Xiao
that
Chen
woman
said,
should be Ling
however,
Tian's
I want little
granddaughter,
Wu
Ling
and little
Qinyu.
Zhao to come back
She was
and
also
protect
the
Ling
person that
Qinyu.
Xiao Chen was
If
going
there's
to
any
protect.
danger, I'll rush
However,
over
hearing
immediately.
her angry words,
I think it's
Xiao
better
Chen
for
couldn't
me to
help
stay
but
in the
smile
research
bitterly.
institute. As expected,
You're right,
it wasn't
I'll
an
make the
easy
arrangements.
mission.
Ling Tian nodded his head.
If the other party
808.
really wanted to
When
use
Ling
the
Qinyu
people
heard
from the
this
internal
person's
martial
words,
arts
she
world,
shouted angrily,
then only
Are
Xiao
you
Chen,
kidding
who
me?
was the strongest
This is
among
my
them.
bedroom, the place
No
where I
problem.
usually sleep and rest. You installed cameras everywhere.
Xiao Chen replied,
Do I still want to
that's
sleep?
right, that female
What
ninja
if I
is
take
called
off my
Ling
clothes at
Qinyu.
night? There's only
The
one
man
word
said
difference
calmly,
between her
Miss
and
Ling,
Ling
we have
Qinyu.
to do this to
Of course,
protect
the
you.
spelling might be
When you
different.
sleep, it's the
Grandpa
time
Ling,
when
do
you're
you
least
remember?
vigilant.
I feel
It's
that this
very
is too
likely
much of
that
a
someone will
coincidence.
take advantage of you and
Ling
kidnap you.
Qinyu? Female ninja?
So you're saying that the
Are you
infrared
for real?
alarm you set up is
Ling
useless?
Tian was taken aback
Ling
as he
Qinyu
looked at Xiao
retorted
Chen.
angrily.
It's true.
It's not that it's
Xiao Chen
useless,
said.
but it's not that
What does she
effective
look
against
like?
experts.
Ling Tian
There are
suddenly
ways
asked.
to avoid it.
Looks
The
like
man said.
Grandpa Ling,
This
could
man
she
was
really
indeed
be related to
Xiao Zhao's
Qinyu?
partner, Xiao Wu.
Xiao Chen was a
That
little
won't do.
surprised. When I
It
sleep,
shouldn't
you can
be, I'm
watch
just
me.
asking.
I like to
Ling
sleep
Tian
naked,
shook
so
his
I won't
head.
allow it. How do I put it? Ling Qinyu was
She's
about
very
to go
beautiful,
crazy,
but I feel like
there
I've
were
seen
so
her
many
before.
cameras in the dormitory.
Xiao Chen said.
If her best
You
friend
mean
came to
she's
see
similar
her,
to
wouldn't they
Qinyu?
find out something
Ling
was wrong?
Tian asked.
Also,
That's not
who
it.
would dare to come
Xiao
after
Chen
seeing
shook
this
his head.
situation?
She seems to
Xiao
be
Wu
similar
replied
to a
with a
desk
smile.
mate of mine,
Miss Ling,
but it's
don't
not the
worry.
same.
Xiao
Maybe
Zhao
it's
is in
Qinyu?
charge of the
That
surveillance
doesn't
in your
seem
bedroom.
to be it.
I won't
Ling
look at
Tian
it.
fell into
She's
deep
also a
thought.
woman, so it's
Grandpa
fine.
Ling? Xiao
No,
Chen
no.
called out.
Ling Qinyu
There are some
finally lost
secrets
her
that I
patience.
can't say directly.
She can't watch it
I need
either.
to think about it.
I might bring my
Although I'm
boyfriend
the
back to
director
spend the
of the
night.
Supernatural
Doesn't she want to
Investigation
watch me
Bureau,
perform?
this isn't just
Absolutely
my
not.
family's business.
Miss Ling, according
Ling
to our
Tian said,
investigation,
what do you
you
mean?
don't have a boyfriend.
Xiao Chen was
Xiao Wu
confused.
said calmly.
Nothing, I've thought of something, but
I'm a
I'm not
lesbian
too
with
sure.
my best friend, okay?
Ling Tian waved
Do
his
you
hands.
understand? All right,
Ling
let's
Qinyu
not
was
talk
about
about
to
this.
explode.
It's getting
Those
late,
two
you
are
should
both
go back
women.
and rest. Xiao Zhao doesn't see anything wrong with it. Xiao Wu smiled. All right, I forgot to tell
Chapter
you.
8:14.
Xiao Wu seems to be gay
All right,
too.
then I'll take
She
my
can
leave,
watch it.
Grandpa Ling.
You.
Xiao Chen saw
I
that
order you
Ling
to
Tian
take down
wasn't
all
going
these
to say
things.
anything, so he didn't
Otherwise,
pursue
I'll
the
tell my
matter.
grandfather.
Even though he was
Ling
curious,
Qinyu
he
still
finally
got up
couldn't
and
take
left.
it anymore.
Ling Tian
I'm
closed
sorry,
his
Miss
eyes
Ling.
and leaned back
We're
on
just
the sofa.
following Director
No
Ling's
one knew
orders.
what he was thinking about.
Xiao Wu said
Xiao
in a
Chen
neither
returned to
verbal
his
nor
dormitory
overbearing
and
manner.
began to cultivate.
Even though he
was
knew
about
that
to
the
go
possibility
crazy.
of Ling
At
Qinyu
this
being
moment,
attacked was
Ling
very
Tian
small,
pushed open
he
the
still
door
kept
and
an
walked
eye on
into
the
the room.
place.
Looking
Of course,
at the
he
angry
didn't
Ling
know when
Qinyu,
young
he
Master
smiled
Xing would
lovingly.
make a move on the
Qinyu,
research
why are you
institute.
angry? At this
Aren't they
moment,
doing this for
young
your own
Master
good?
Xing was on
Also,
the phone
when
with
did
the
you
elders
become
of the
gay?
sect.
How come
Little
Grandpa
Xing,
doesn't
how's
know?
the progress on your
Grandpa.
side?
There
Ling
was a
Qinyu
deep
didn't
and
expect
dignified
her
voice
grandpa
on
to
the
be
other
here.
side of the phone.
She was busy
It should be an
arguing with
important
Lil
figure
Wu
in
in
the
the suite
sect.
and didn't hear the
Elder
voices
son,
outside.
there's a bit of trouble here.
As a
It's like
result,
this.
she blushed. Young Master
Qinyu,
Xing
they're
didn't
just
hide
following my
anything and
orders,
told
and it's
Elder
for your
Son
own good.
everything. They have
In
to
that
ensure your
case, the
safety.
sect master
If
of
they
the
don't
outer
monitor
martial
you, how
world's
can they
demon
protect
sect,
you?
Xiao Chen
Ling
is
Tian
involved?
smiled as he
Then we
consoled
really
her.
can't do anything
But I
to
don't
him.
have any privacy
Elder
at all.
son clicked his
I'll feel
tongue.
very awkward.
Even though we wanted
Ling
to kill him
Qinyu pointed
before,
at the camera
we
on
can't
the
be the
ceiling
ones
and
to
said,
kill him.
Grandpa, look.
That's right.
So
One
I
is
already
facing
told
my bed,
Yakashima
and the other
Yukio
is
not
facing
to
the
have any
bathroom door.
conflict with Xiao Chen.
I'm being monitored every
Since Xiao
day.
Chen is
Although
protecting
Xiao
Ling
Wu is a
Qinyu,
girl,
then
I
we
still
can
feel
directly attack the research institute.
That won't be necessary.
There's no need to kidnap them.
Just as Ling
Young
Tian was
Master
about to
Shing
speak,
said,
Xiao Qin interrupted
"You mean to
with
rob
a
the
smile.
research institute
With a wave
directly?"
of his hand,
Hearing
the
this,
cameras fell
elder
to the
son's
ground
voice
and
changed.
were placed on the
That
bed by
won't
Xiao
do.
Qin. If we do it and the other sex
Ling
find
Qinyu's
out,
eyes
it will
will
affect
affect
us
us
too
too
much.
much.
Xiao Qin.
Yakashima
This was also
Yukio
the first time
definitely
Xiao
won't be
Qin
able
looked
to
at Ling
handle it.
Qinyu. However,
That's what I
Ling
thought
Qinyu
before.
looked a little
I
familiar
wanted
to
us
Xiao
to do
Qin,
it,
but now
as
I
if he
thought
had
of a
seen
way
her
to kill
somewhere
two
before.
birds with one stone.
Thinking about it carefully,
Young
it
Master
should be
Shing
Ling
said,
Tian.
"Actually,
It
we
seemed
can
like
leak the
Ling
news
Tian
and
was
let
a
Xiao Qin
handsome
know
man when he was young.
Then Xiao
This
Qin
was
will
because
appear at the
Ling Qinyu
research
was very
institute.
beautiful.
Then we
She
can
was
do
a very
this."
intelligent girl.
Oh? Of
What you
course,
said is a
Xiao
good
Qin had
idea.
already passed
But
the
are you
age
sure
where he
that
would
you
be
will be able to
infatuated
obtain
with
it after
beautiful
this?
girls. As
Elder
his
son
experience
asked in
and strength
agreement.
grew, Xiao
I'm not
Qin's
too sure about
personality
that.
also changed
Even
greatly.
if we can't get our hands
I'm
on
here
it,
to
the
replace
news
the
has
two of
already
them
been
to protect
released.
you. When the
Xiao
time
Qin
comes,
smiled.
Xiao Qin won't have time to worry
Ling
about the
Qinyu's
research
expression
institute
changed.
and Ling Qinyu.
Don't think that you
We
can
can
gain
still
my
get
trust and
Yakashima
goodwill just
Kikuo
because
to
you
kidnap
pretend
him
to
using the
remove the
same
cameras.
method.
Prince
You must
Shing
be
said.
thinking of other methods.
What you said makes
Maybe
sense.
you're going
Then
to
let's do it
install some
according to
pinhole
your
cameras
idea.
without me noticing.
Elder son nodded.
The
I
sect
won't.
will also help you
Xiao
spread
Qin
the
smiled.
news. What I need to do is familiarize myself
Young
with
Master
your living
Shing didn't
environment.
think that his suggestion
After
would
that,
be
you
approved
can do your
by
own
the
things
elder.
and I'll do mine.
If this matter was
We
successful,
won't have much
it would be a
interaction.
great merit.
Really? After hanging
Ling
up the
Qinyu
phone,
obviously
young
didn't
Master
believe it.
Shing started
Her
to make
previous
arrangements.
experience had
He
already
called
told her that
Hiroshima
Xiao
Kiku
Wu
and
and Xiao
Xiao
Zhao were also
Young
lying
Master
to her.
Shing, you were looking
In
for
the
me?
end, they were still seen
Naishima
through by
Kishio
her.
was a little puzzled.
You'll know when you see.
Young Master Shing had
Xiao Chen
already
shrugged.
gone upstairs
Okay,
to rest.
then I'll see if
so
you
why was
installed
he
a
called
pinhole
here
camera
again?
here.
Ling Qinyu nodded and stared at Xiao Chen
He had no
fiercely
idea
without
what was going
blinking.
on.
It's
Sure.
like this. Xiao
Do you
Chen
have
didn't
any way of
refuse.
letting Xiao Chen
After
know
saying
without him
that, he walked
suspecting
around the
anything?
room. He
Young
walked to
Master
the east
Shing
and
went
looked
straight
to the
to the
west.
point.
Then
Oh,
he seemed to be
this is a
fiddling
little
with
difficult.
something. He stopped at some places for a little embarrassed.
No one knew what he was doing,
Naishima
but Ling
Kishio's
Qinyu could
expression.
see clearly
Young
that
Master
Xiao Chen
Shing
didn't
also
install
knew that
anything like a
Naishima
pinhole
Kishio
camera.
probably didn't have
Xiao
a good
Zhao
plan.
and Xiao Wu also
After
looked
all,
at Xiao
letting
Chen
Xiao Chen know
strangely.
about the news
They
was
didn't
easy.
understand what
He
Xiao
could
Chen
even
was
tell him
doing.
directly.
Previously,
but the key
they
was
had
that
the same
Xiao Chen
thought
had
as
to
Ling
believe
Qinyu,
him, which was that
if
Xiao Chen
Naishima
was actually
Kishio
lying
told
to
Xiao
her
Chen
and wanted to
directly,
secretly
not
install
only
a
would
small
Xiao Chen
camera.
not believe him,
However,
he
no
would
matter how
definitely
small
think
the
that it was a
camera
trick
was,
to lure the
it could be
tiger
seen
away
when
from
it was
the mountain.
installed.
He didn't
However,
know that
Xiao
Xiao
Chen
Chen
really
had
didn't
actually
install it.
secretly heard that
Thinking
they were
up
going
to
to
this
directly
point,
attack
Xiao
the
Zhao and
research
Xiao Wu
institute.
couldn't help but
So
suspect
anyone who
that
heard
Xiao
this
Chen
would
was
think that
first
it was a
confusing
lie.
Ling Qinyu
You
and
think of
waiting
a way
for her
to
to
do
get
this.
tired of
If
watching
you do it
before
well,
installing
our
the camera.
cooperation will be
Even Ling
successful,
Tian
but
thought
remember,
so.
you must make
However,
Xiao Chen
what
believe
surprised
and
them
not
was that
suspect
at this
anything.
moment, Xiao Chen
Understand?
stood up and walked
Young
over.
Master Shing knew
Okay,
that
I'm
if he
done
didn't
watching.
put some pressure
I
on
can leave
Naishima
now.
Kishio,
Miss
he
Ling
wouldn't rack
Qinyu,
his
please
brains.
remember my
So
phone
he
number.
directly pointed
If
out
there's
that this was
anything,
a
just call me.
cooperation. After
Really?
saying that, Xiao Chen
Naishima
walked out of the
Kishio didn't
dormitory.
expect the cooperation to
Ling
be
Tian was
so
a little
simple.
curious and followed
As long
him.
as he released a piece
There
of
was no
news
need
that
for
Xiao
Xiao Wu
Wu
and Xiao Zhao
the
to
Sakura
stay, so
group
they
could get the
naturally
benefit
followed
they
him out.
wanted.
In an
Yes.
instant, only
Young
Ling
Master
Qinyu
Shing
was
nodded
left
in
in
the
the
room.
room. But if
Xiao
Xiao
Chen
Chen
doesn't
camera on
believe
the
it
bed
and
in a
doesn't
daze,
appear,
then
where
the
did this guy
cooperation
come
will
from?
be considered a
Just
failure.
by watching for 2
Naishima
rounds and not
Kishio
doing
seemed to
anything,
have
he
made a
thought he could
difficult
protect
decision.
me?
He
Wasn't
gritted
he
his
afraid
teeth
that
and
I would
looked
be
up.
kidnapped if
Well,
he removed
is
the
it okay
camera?
to find a reason to
Sometimes
make
people
Xiao
were
Chen
like
believe
this.
it? They were
Yes,
obviously
I can
very
promise on
resistant,
behalf of the
but when
sect.
someone suddenly
Young
did
Master
what they
Shing
wanted,
said with
they would
certainty.
definitely feel
Good.
that something was wrong.
Naishima Kishio
Right now,
said,
Ling Qinyu
"Tell me
was
what
like
the
this.
news is. I will
She even
definitely pass
suspected
it
that
to
this
Xiao
guy
Chen.
wasn't
He
really
will
here
also
to protect
believe
her,
him.
but was here
The
to
news
play.
is very simple.
At this
Just
moment,
say that we are
Ling
going to
Qinyu
rob the
wanted to
research
complain to her
institute.
grandfather
Then let
about
Xiao Chen go to
Chen.
the research
However,
institute.
after
The
thinking
young
about
Master
it,
Shing said,
wasn't this the situation she
luring
wanted?
the tiger away
Why
from
should
the
she
mountain?
complain about him?
Naishima
I
Kishio
don't care.
subconsciously
It's
thought
best
of this
if you want to
possibility.
play, but don't affect
No,
my
what
studies.
I said is true.
If you want to protect
Young
me,
Master
that's
Shing
fine,
waved his hand,
but don't try to
I
pry
want
into
Xiao
my
Chen
privacy.
to appear at the research
Actually,
institute.
Ling Qinyu
And I
didn't
also want to
realize
rob
the
the research
seriousness of the
institute.
matter at all.
But you don't need to
From
ask
her
about
point
the
of view,
details.
she didn't
You
even
just
go
need
out
to
in
arrange
school.
this matter.
Why would someone
Okay.
kidnap her? Naishima
Moreover,
Kishio was
outside
very
the dormitory,
puzzled. He didn't
other
know
than
why
Xiao
young
Wu and
Master
Xiao
Shing
Zhao,
would make such
there
an
were many
arrangement,
people
didn't
secretly
he?
protecting
What
her.
was the point of
They were
robbing?
all undercover
How could there
agents
be
with
such a
guns.
thing as a
Xiao
terrorist
Zhao and Xiao
organization
Wu
that
were
wanted to
obviously
carry out a
making a
terrorist
mountain out of a
attack?
molehill.
And even
After
make a
Xiao
statement
Chen
in
walked out of
advance.
the female
But since
dormitory,
young Master
Ling
Shing
Tian
was so
asked
sure,
curiously,
Naishima
Xiao
Kishio
Chen,
naturally
why
did
didn't
as
you
he
make
was
some
told.
protective
He
measures
went
for
out of
Qinyu?
young Master Shing's
What?
room and looked for Ling
Xiao Chen was
Qianxue.
stunned as he looked at Ling Tian in confusion.
Master Naishima,
What did he mean
you are
by
looking
not
for
making
me?
any protective
Ling
measures for
Qianxue
Qinyu?
thought that Naishima
I don't think I
Kishio
did
was going to
anything to
punish
her,
her,
right?
Ling
Qianxue,
Qianxue looked at
do you
Xiao
remember
Chen's
the
stunned
day you
expression
became a
and then
ninja
looked
that
at
Xiao
Xiao
Zhao
made to
and
the
Xiao Wu who were
organization?
trying to hold back their
Naishima
laughter?
Kishio suddenly
He
asked.
immediately
I
understood
will
that
not
his
give
words
up.
had a
I will
different
not
meaning.
betray.
It
I
was
will
as if
always
he
be
was
ready
saying
to
that Xiao
sacrifice
Chen had
myself
made
for the
Ling Qinyu
organization.
pregnant.
Ling
What I mean is,
Qianxue
didn't you
immediately
make some
said
protective
solemnly,
measures?
Master
Ling
Naishima
Tian
Kishio,
asked
if there is
embarrassedly.
anything I can do
Oh,
for
I
you,
did.
please
It's
let me
just
know.
that you guys didn't notice.
If you know your identity
Xiao
and
Chen
background,
smiled
will you doubt
faintly.
the organization?
You did? did?
What did you do?
Kishio asked.
Ling Tian was shocked.
No, my identity
You
is
can
a
monitor
ninja
Chen
of
Yu's
the
room
Sakura
now?
group. It
Yes.
doesn't matter what my previous
nodded.
identity is. He was now a
Ling
golden
Chen
core
said
cultivator.
loudly.
Very
According
well,
to
then
his
I will
special
tell you a
ability,
secret now.
he now had the ability to set up a
Kishio
simple
lowered his
array.
voice and said,
In fact,
the
in
Ling
Ling
Chen
Chen
that
Yu's
you
room,
wanted to
Xiao
kidnap
Chen
had
had actually set up a
sister.
surveillance array.
It was
Ling
just that
Chen
no one
was
could tell
stunned.
what he was doing.
Master Naishima?
Are you serious?
What do you mean?
How did
Your
you
joke
do it?
is not funny at
After
all.
Ling Tian
Did I
asked
do
this,
something
he
to
seemed
make
know
the
that he had
organization
asked too
unhappy?
much. Xiao Chen
I'm
wasn't
not
a
joking.
local member of the
Naishima
Supernatural
Kishio said
Investigation
seriously.
Bureau. Your
Thus,
identity
there
is
was no
actually
need
the
for Xiao Chen
granddaughter
to
of
share
the
some of
director
the
of the
special methods
Supernatural
with them.
Investigation
This
Bureau,
could be Xiao
Ling
Chen's
Tian,
own method.
and Ling Qinyu's biological sister.
If he said it,
Not
Master
only would it
Naishima,
cause the secret to fail
you
in the
must be
future,
mistaken,
but
my
Xiao
sister
Chen
is
also
not.
wouldn't be willing to do
Ling
it.
Qinyue was
Thus, he
surprised and in
immediately added,
disbelief.
It's nothing.
Your sister?
It's good that
Do you
I
think
can
it is
see
Ling Qinyue?
Xiao Chen
In
nodded.
order to prevent your
He could
sister
use
from
his mind
entering
to
the
control
control
the
group,
surveillance
you
array to see
volunteered
the
to enter the
situation in the
Sakura group in
dormitory,
her place and
but there
used
was
her
also
name,
a distance
Ling
limit,
Qinyue,
right?
He couldn't do it from a
Naishima
long
Kishio
distance.
said. With Xiao Chen's
You know
current
all this?
ability, it shouldn't
Ling
be a problem
Qinyue's
within
eyes
the campus.
widened in disbelief.
Let's go.
Her parents
I'll
were
handle the admission
researchers working
procedures
for the
for
Cherry
you.
Blossom Group.
Little Wu and Little
According
Zhao
to
will
the
also
rules,
handle the
either
withdrawal
she
procedures.
or her younger sister must
Ling
become a
Tian
member
said.
of the organization.
However, the Cherry Blossom Group wanted a younger sister who was 1 year younger than her and was not sensible yet. The two of them were responsible for protecting Miss Ling, was afraid that her younger sister would suffer. This wasn't an easy job. She disguised herself as her younger sister and joined the organization. The procedures were very easy. The real younger sister became Ling was directly placed in the preparatory class. She still used the name Ling Chenxue to commemorate her identity, class was a preschool class held by the university before the first year. She thought that she had done it flawlessly, students who met certain conditions participated in this preparatory class and successfully entered the university in the second year. Tacit consent. It just so happened that Xiaoqun didn't want to directly learn the first-year curriculum group. It wouldn't be connected at all. Said lightly. It was already April, and the current first-year students were about to enter the second year. Ling Chenxue was a little puzzled. If Naishima Kishio said that the Sakura group knew about what she had done, she would believe it. Ling Tian arranged an independent dormitory for Xiaoqun. It wasn't far from Ling Chenyu's dormitory. Your sister Ling Chenxue's real sister is also a member of our Sakura group. Xiao Wu used to live here as well. Xiaoqun, I'll leave. We have already sent her to do something big. We'll go back first, replacing the spot that originally belonged to you. Ling Tian said. Oh, I mean Ling Chenyu's sister, but I don't know the specifics. This is also my job. I'll try my authority, best. I can't find out, Xiaoqun didn't say anything like, don't worry, Naishima Kishio I'll definitely complete the mission. I'm telling you this just to tell you the truth. Could be from the internal martial arts world. You are still you, if that was the outstanding ninja wouldn't be a match for them. Ling Chenxue. Okay, I'll leave it to you. Yes. Ling Chenxue patted Xiaoqun's shoulder. In the following days, Xiaoqun was very satisfied with Ling Chenxue's attitude. However, Xiaoqun didn't come here to attend classes. I don't blame you for failing your previous mission, to protect Ling Chenxue, but I will give you a new mission. Therefore, he didn't even leave his room. I hope you can complete it. He only went out to buy some things during meals. Ling Chenxue realized that after Xiaoqun came that day, he really didn't appear again. The idea of serving the Sakura group was deeply rooted in her mind. Could it be that Xiaoqun really got into the hard to get? Well, could it be that he really didn't want to and then tell him that we are going to deal with the research institute? Although Ling Chenxue was a girl, if you hint that he will personally oversee the research institute, then your mission will be surveillance cameras in Naishima Kishio said. Because the dormitory was already renovated, it was impossible to rewire it. If we tell him no matter what kind of camera it was, it needed to be wirelessly transmitted. However, after she measured it, she found that there really wasn't any wireless transmission equipment. Therefore, she was a little puzzled. Doesn't believe me. What on earth was Xiaoqun doing? Felt that if she went to find Xiaoqun for no reason, Xiaoqun would definitely not believe her. Was he not responsible at all? Why would I tell you my identity? Was he just fooling around? When the time comes, you can reveal your identity. How can Xiaoqun not believe that it was a good thing that there wasn't anyone monitoring her every day? I don't need to say more about this. However, this was a critical time. When the time comes, really afraid you can verify your DNA or something else. If they didn't monitor her closely, they should at least protect her from afar, right? However, there was none of that. She didn't even see Xiaoqun for the past few days. Yes, I understand. She even knew that when Xiao Wu stood up and quickly left the clubhouse, Xiao Wu used his binoculars to monitor her every day. Still a little cold. In the opposite dormitory, Xiao Wu's room was facing Ling Chenxue. Although he couldn't see the bed, he could see the desk. She was a little underdressed. However, Ling Chenxue realized that ever since Xiaoqun moved in, he hadn't used his binoculars at all. Gradually cooled down. Every time Ling Chenxue sat in front of the desk to read, she would look in the opposite direction. She was actually Ling Chenyu's sister. In the past, she used to close the curtains because she didn't want Lil Wu and the others to see. No, this was all for the organization, for the curtains opposite her were drawn. She was a ninja of the Sakura group, turn off the lights, so she had to work for the Sakura group. Later on, everything else paid special attention to it. No, didn't she enter the Sakura group? She realized that Xiaoqun's daily life was very regular. Needed was an ignorant child when she went to class in the morning. For her sister, she replaced her. At least although at that time, she already had some thoughts of her own. Would never deliberately she came to the Sakura group for her sister. When she went to the cafeteria, then why was she doing this now? Xiaoqun would go her sister was no longer her biological sister. She would see Ling Chenxue was her biological sister. Xiaoqun didn't seem to go to class. Ling Chenxue felt a headache coming on. Ling Chenxue saw that he was either eating or returning to the dormitory. And Ling Chenxue was strengthened her confidence. Was this guy here to waste his time? She was an elite talent cultivated by the organization. This was what she was looking forward to. She must be loyal to the organization. Thinking of this, her head, Ling Chenxue had decided to carry out several times. She wanted to ask him if he was here to protect her or on vacation. Standing at the door of the girls' dormitory, Ling Chenxue she didn't want to be monitored and protected. Xiaoqun, who was monitoring not far away, would definitely find her. What else could she ask? However, as time went by, she couldn't take it anymore. Immediately. One day, she saw Xiaoqun didn't go upstairs and go back to the dormitory. Such a strange target appeared at the door after he went upstairs. He turned off the lights and went to bed. The undercover agents who were monitoring below immediately notified Xiaoqun. She picked up the phone and dialed Xiaoqun's number. After receiving the news, Xiaoqun returned to reality from his cultivation, dormitory. But he was a little puzzled. It was not easy for the undercover agents to appear, and didn't encounter and most of them were no match for Ling Chenxue. Why did she call him? What are you doing here again? Xiaoqun still not giving up. Miss
Xiao
Ling,
Chen
what's the
said
matter?
curiously behind
Xiao
Ling
Chen,
Qianxue.
I want to ask you, how do you work?
You scared me to death.
Why can't I see you even
Ling
once?
Qianxue was shocked.
Ling Qianxue
Do you
asked,
know that people can
"Oh,
scare
Miss Ling,
people to
isn't
death?
this as you wish? Why are you still
Xiao Chen
wandering
smiled
around
and
here
said,
in the middle of
"Don't
the
you
night?
don't like me hanging
Xiao
around
Chen
you,
looked
and
at
you
her
don't like
strangely.
being monitored?
What are you doing here?
But my grandfather
I have
sent
something
you here
to talk
not
to you
for you
about.
to take a vacation.
Let's find a place
You
with
are
no
not
one
as
around."
responsible as the
Ling
agents who
Qianxue
protect me
tone
on the
was very
periphery."
urgent,
As
as
if
if there
Ling
was
Qianxue said
something
angrily,
important. "Although I don't
"Okay,
like
come
being
to my
monitored,
dormitory
this
if
isn't
you're
a
not
reason for
afraid
you
that
to
I'll
slack
rape you."
off."
As Xiao
Oh,
Chen spoke, he
Xiao
turned
Chen
and
replied,
left.
"How do
He
you
wasn't
know that I'm
afraid that
slacking
Ling
off?
Qianxue wouldn't follow
You don't
him.
pay attention
Since
to me.
Ling Qianxue
Something
came here
happens
in the
to
middle
me,
of
how
the
would you
night,
know?
there must be
Ling
something
Qianxue
important.
asked,
I'll
who's
appear when
afraid
you
of
call
whom?
me. I'm just
Xiao Chen
afraid that
said,
you don't dare.
"You."
Ling
Qianxue
Qianxue
snorted
snorted
and followed.
Do you think you're Aladdin's magic lamp? You're on call. Arriving at Xiao
Well,
Chen's
that's about it.
dormitory,
Xiao
Ling
Chen
Qianxue
said,
discovered
"You."
that this place was
Ling
far
Qianxue
away
really
from
didn't
Ling
know what
Qianxue's
to say.
dormitory. Do whatever
She
you
couldn't
want.
help but tease.
Anyway, if
"So you've
something
been
happens to
monitoring
me,
here
my
every day."
grandfather will definitely
Oh,
not let you go.
binoculars?
Or
Oh,
do
you
my
can
eyes
try if
have
you
the
don't
ability
believe
to
me.
see through things?
Xiao Chen said
Xiao
lightly.
Chen glared at
"Oh,
Ling Qianxue.
I'm caught and then
If you have something to
experimented?
say,
It'll be too late
Don't
by
say
then."
useless things.
Ling
Qianxue said angrily.
I want to tell you
For
something.
example, when you're in danger,
Ling
shout my
Qianxue
name
gritted
and
her
I'll
teeth.
definitely appear.
Her
Her expression
Xiao
seemed to be
Chen
struggling
smiled.
internally.
Big liar.
In fact, she
Ling
was also
Qianxue
struggling.
snorted coldly and
She
hung
didn't
up
know
the
how
phone.
to choose.
Although
Chen
she was
shook his
still
head,
partial
put
to
the
the
phone
Sakura
aside,
group
and entered the state of
unconsciously she had
cultivation
some
again.
ideas of her own.
He had just
In the
broken
past,
through the
she would
gold
listen
core
to the
stage
Sakura
and he had to
group
consolidate
wholeheartedly.
his strength. But
Now
that
she
he
would
had
think of
used
her
up all
Ling
the
Qianxue
cultivation
from time to
resources,
time.
it was
Was she
especially
really her
difficult
sister?
to consolidate his
Say,
strength.
Therefore,
Xiao
Xiao Chen
Chen
missed the previous
Lord Yi
adventures.
Dao and the people
No
behind
wonder
him
even
are ready
many
to
martial
directly
artists
attack
were
the Wuxia
enthusiastic
Institute.
about all kinds of
Ling
adventures.
Qianxue said as
They
if
could
she
really
had made
get
a
some
great
benefits
decision.
and benefits from them.
Xiao Chen
Ling
was
Qianxue
slightly
took a
stunned.
bath and lay on
He
the
knew
bed.
about this a long
She
time
suddenly
ago.
found it very
He
boring.
had heard about it before,
In the past,
but
she
why
left
did Ling
little Wu
Qianxue
and little
tell him
Zhao
again?
like a thief.
Even if
She
Ling
didn't dare
Qianxue
to do
didn't
this
say
after
it,
taking a
Xiao
bath.
Chen had already
She only
prepared to
wore
go
a
to the
bath
research
towel and lay on the
institute to
bed.
take charge.
Her breasts and
But
legs
saying
were
it made
half
him a little
exposed, and she
suspicious.
wrapped them tightly.
Because you are here,
But now no one
Lord
could
Yi
see
Dao
them.
and the others
She
won't
felt
do anything to
uncomfortable.
Ling Qianxue anymore.
In fact, it was also
So
because
you
of
can
her
go to the
resentment
research
towards
institute
people
like
without
Xiao Chen
worry.
who used the
There
name
won't
of
be
work
any
to come
danger
to
here.
vacation. Ling Qianxue said,
Xiao Chen help.
why are you telling me this? Suddenly,
Xiao Chen
Ling
looked at
Qianxue
Ling
remembered
Qianxue
what Xiao Chen
doubtfully.
said before,
This should
so
be
she
your
tried to
internal
shout.
secret, right?
Of course, she
If you
didn't
didn't
tell me,
Xiao Chen
wouldn't
would
it be
appear
easier
because
for
it
you
was
to attack the
impossible.
research
But
institute
Ling
if I was
Qianxue
here?
was still looking forward to
true.
whether someone would knock on the door.
But although I don't want to
Whoosh,
betray the
with a
organization,
sound, the curtain
I don't
was
want
pulled
anything
open.
to happen to you.
Xiao Chen
If the
directly
research
pushed the
institute
window
is
open
attacked,
and jumped into
then
Ling
Director
Qianxue's
Ling
room.
Tian will definitely
He asked,
be implicated.
"What's wrong?
This is not what I want to see."
Ling Qianxue saw
Ling
Xiao Chen
Qianxue
suddenly
said,
appear,
and
"What
this
does this
time
have to
she
do with
shouted
you?"
even louder and
Xiao
more
Chen was
frightened.
even more confused.
She never thought that Xiao
Because
Chen would come in through
Ling
the window
Qianxue
and
so
took a deep
quickly.
breath. The two
Ling
dormitory
Qianxue is my
buildings were
sister.
at least a few
I
hundred
am Ling
meters
Tian's
apart,
granddaughter.
and there was a stadium
What?
in the middle.
Xiao
Even
Chen
if
was
Xiao
so
Chen was
shocked
a
that he
high-level
almost jumped up.
cultivator, he
He
couldn't
had
jump
thought of
over,
many
but,
possibilities.
along with the shock,
For example,
Ling Qianxue
Lord Yi Dao and
subconsciously
young
waved
Master
her
Xing
hands and
changed
changed
their
their
minds
minds and wanted to lure him
As a
away
result,
from the
the
mountain
towel
to
on her
kidnap
body
Ling
fell
Qianxue.
to the ground,
Or maybe young
revealing her
Master
fair
Xing
skin.
found out that
Ling
Ling
Qianxue's
Qianxue's
skin
skin
was
was
very
very
white,
white and
and
suspected
she was
that
a
Xiao
classic
Chen was the
Oriental
culprit.
beauty.
So he
Her
sent
chest
Ling
wasn't
Qianxue
very
to
big,
test him,
but her figure
he
was
never
very well
thought that Ling
proportioned,
Qianxue was Ling
especially her
Qianxue's
sister.
pair of smooth
What
and
was
long
going
legs.
on?
It
A
made her
ninja
look
from an
tall and
island
graceful,
country and the
If she
granddaughter
were
of
the
the
director
Changsan
of the
Ling Qianxue
Supernatural
would definitely be
Investigation
very
Bureau.
beautiful.
How was it
What's
possible
wrong with
for
you?
them to have
Did
such
the
a
cucumber
completely
break in your
unrelated
body?
relationship?
I don't see why you
Yes,
need me
Ling
to save your
Qianxue is my
life.
sister.
Xiao Chen
Ling
didn't look at
Qianxue
Ling
said,
Qianxue too much.
Didn't you notice that
After
our
all,
names are
she
very
was Ling
similar?
Tian's granddaughter,
Ling Qianxue,
but he
are
still
you stupid?
teased her a little.
Are you dreaming? Looking at the current situation, it was easy to guess that Ling
Look at
Qianxue
you,
was
you look
bored
like
and
a
wanted to
typical
test if
ninja.
it worked. How could you
As
be
for
Ling
Xiao
Qianxue's
Chen's
sister? He
sister,
subconsciously
obviously
Did you
flew
eat too
over.
many stupid pills?
He was in the middle of
Xiao Chen's
cultivating,
first
so he
thought
didn't
was that
pay
Ling
much attention
Qianxue
to
was
the too
surveillance spell
ridiculous
formation.
Xiao Chen,
He only
everything
used
I
his
said is
divine
the
sense
truth.
to sense the
If
movements
you don't
in the
believe me,
area.
you can bring me
If
and
someone
Ling
entered,
Qianyu for
they
a
wouldn't
DNA
be able
test.
to do so quietly.
Ling Qianxue said with
Thus, when he
certainty.
heard Ling Qianyu's
Wait, I'm a
cry,
little
he
confused.
didn't take a second
Is
look
everything
and
you said
flew
true?
over on his flying
Xiao
sword.
Chen looked at Ling
After all,
Qianxue
no
in
one would
disbelief.
notice him at night.
Are you sure you're not joking with me?
Furthermore,
No.
Xiao
Ling
Chen's speed was
Qianxue
very
shook her head.
fast.
Don't
Even
say
if someone
anything
saw
else.
him, they would think
I'll
that
give
he was
Director
just
Ling
seeing
Tian a
things.
call.
In the end,
The thing
this
you
was
said
the
is
scene
too
he saw the
important.
moment he
I
entered.
can't decide.
Of course, Xiao Chen didn't
feel
slap his
awkward.
forehead and took
This
out
was
his
Ling
phone.
Qianyu's own
He
fault.
dialed Ling
So
Tian's
what did it have
number.
to do with him?
Xiao Chen?
Although Xiao
Ling
Chen
Tian
sympathized
picked up
with
the
Ling
phone.
Qianyu as
He
Ling
hadn't
Tian's
left yet.
granddaughter. He was
She
still
didn't have
outside
much
Ling
freedom.
Qianyu's dorm.
At the same time, he
Grandpa
felt that
Ling,
she
if
was
you
a
don't
little
have anything
immature.
to do, come
While
over.
little Wu and
I have
little
something
Zhao's
important to
actions
tell
made
you.
him feel uncomfortable,
Xiao Chen said.
it was for her own good.
What is it?
There was no
Ling
need to
Tian
reject
was
them
a little
so
confused.
fiercely.
Wasn't
Xiao
it
Chen
just
had
a surveillance
returned.
camera?
Why was he
Actually,
looking
this
for
was
him
also
again?
because Xiao Chen was
Can't
a
we
guy
talk
and not
over
a
the
girl.
phone?
After
Let's
all,
talk when we
which
meet.
decent girl would
Some
agree
things
to
are
have a
important.
bunch of surveillance
It can't
cameras
be
installed
explained
in
in
their
a few
bedroom?
words. Of course,
Xiao
Xiao
Chen
Chen
said.
might not think that it was a
I'll go
problem,
now.
but to Ling
Ling
Qianyu, it
Tian
was a
nodded.
serious problem.
Ling Qianxue
Ling
sat on
Qianyu
the
calmed
sofa.
down after hearing
Xiao
what
Chen
Xiao
didn't
Chen
say
said.
anything. She
immediately
grabbed a
blanket
blanket
from the side and
Instead,
covered herself
he quietly
with it.
thought about
She
the
glared at
authenticity
Xiao
of
Chen
this
angrily.
matter.
Actually,
What are you doing?
If Ling Qianxue
Why
said
did you
that
enter
DNA
my room
could be
so
verified,
casually and peek
then
at
this
me?
matter was probably true.
Didn't you ask me to
But
come?
if it was true, then it
Xiao
was
Chen frowned.
unbelievable. I was
How
just
did
saying
Ling
casually.
Qianxue become a ninja?
Who knew that you would
And
come
how
so
did she know
quickly?
about this?
Also, you
Did
didn't
she
knock
betray
on the
him
door
after knowing the news?
Ling Qianxue
Just a moment ago,
she wanted to kidnap Ling
She was
Qianxue.
indeed the one who
Now
asked
she
Xiao
came
Chen
to
to
report.
come.
But
The
who
most
knew that he
suspicious
would
thing
appear
was
in
that
such
Ling
a way?
Qianxue kept
If the
calling him
person you
Master
met was a
Yi Dao.
bad guy,
If
I
she
would have
really
come
betrayed
slower
him,
and knocked
why
on the
did she
door.
still call him
Then
Master Yi
I would
Dao?
have missed the
She
opportunity.
could just call him Big Idiot Yi
Xiao Chen
Dao.
said.
Ling
Also,
Qianxue
I
saw
told
that
you
Xiao
very
Chen
clearly
didn't say
before that
anything.
I would come over
She
if
just
you
sat
called
there
me.
quietly.
How would I
Not
know that
long
you were
after there was a
experimenting?
knock on the door.
The door
Ling
isn't
Qianxue
locked.
suddenly felt a
Xiao
sense
Chen
of
said.
helplessness.
Ling Tian
Yes, what
pushed the
Xiao
door
Chen
open
said
and
was right.
walked in.
Moreover,
When he
he
saw
did
Ling
tell her that
Qianxue sitting
before.
on the sofa,
She was
he
willing to
slightly
experiment,
surprised.
so who could be
Then
blamed?
he looked at Xiao
However,
Chen and
she
said,
was a little puzzled.
Xiao Chen, you asked
You
for me?
installed a bug in my
Someone
room.
wants to come and meet you. This ninja, Ling Qianxue, says that
Chapter
she is your
8:10.
granddaughter and
No,
Ling
you checked
Qianxue's
it so
sister.
many times.
I don't dare
If there
to
was
make
a
a
bug,
decision,
wouldn't you
so
have
I called
found it?
Grandpa Ling here.
Xiao Chen said
You can
faintly.
decide what to do. You know I
Xiao
checked
Chen
it?
said straightforwardly.
Ling Qianxue was even
What?
more surprised.
Ling Tian's
How
body
did you see
trembled
it?
as he turned his
You
head to
installed
look
a
at
camera?
Ling Qianxue.
Can you
However,
not ask
after
such
a
an
single
idiotic
look,
question?
he could no longer
If I
shift
don't
his
have some
gaze
special
away.
means,
Previously,
how can I
when
be
he
the
saw Ling
deputy director
Qianxue,
of the
he already
Supernatural
felt an
Investigation
indescribable
Bureau?
emotion.
Xiao Chen
Now
said,
that he heard
"All
Xiao
right,
Chen's
I don't
words,
have time
he
to
felt
play
more
with a
and
little
more
kid
that she
like
was
you.
like his own
If
granddaughter.
there's nothing else,
But
I'm
if she
leaving."
was his granddaughter, then who was the
you
other
are the
Ling
little,
Qianxue?
the kid.
Grandpa
Ling
Hello.
Qianxue was infuriated by Xiao Chen. She suddenly
Ling
thought of an
Qianxue
important
stood up and
question
bowed
and said
politely.
in surprise, "This
What
was
did you
completely
say?
a habit of Japanese
You are the
women."
deputy director
You
of
said,
the Supernatural
"You are Qianxue?"
Investigation Bureau?
Ling Tian asked.
Really?
Yes,
Grandpa,
Ling Qianxue
I am Ling
naturally
Qianxue.
knew that although the
I also
deputy
just heard the
director was
news.
one level lower than
Ling
her
Qianxue
grandfather,
said,
the
if you
newly
don't
appointed
believe me,
director,
you can take
it was
me to
almost
do a
the same.
DNA test.
Even her grandfather
what
couldn't
happened.
order the deputy
Ling
director
Tian
to
took a
do
deep
anything.
breath.
Everything
He
had to
immediately
be
take
discussed.
Ling Qianxue
And
into
Xiao
the
Chen is
test.
so young.
Instead, he asked,
seems to be around
at
the
this
same
moment,
age as me.
his emotions
He's
had
actually
recovered
the
a
deputy
little,
director,
but his voice was
no
still
wonder this
trembling.
person is so undisciplined.
I was eavesdropping on
He
the
isn't afraid
conversation
of her
between Lord
grandfather
Yi
at all.
Dao and the person behind
But how
him,
did he know
and
about
I heard
my
this
situation?
secret.
Ling Qianxue
observed
told the
Xiao
story
Chen for
that
a
she
while,
had prepared
and she
before.
didn't see any
What she had
abnormalities from
experienced
him.
when she was a child
Yes,
was
really?
true.
All
But
right,
the
if there's
eavesdropping
nothing
was
else,
fake.
I'm leaving.
So,
Xiao
you
Chen
didn't know
wanted
that
to
you were
leave before
swamped,
Ling Qianxue
and you always
blamed him
thought
for
that you
looking
were
at
Ling
her body.
Qianxue from Japan.
Otherwise, it would be
Ling
very
Tian
embarrassing.
asked after listening.
Oh yeah, you
Yes,
are
I
not
always
allowed to
thought
tell
so.
others about what
Today
happened
I
just
suddenly
now.
heard this news,
You
and I
can't
was
say
also
that you
very
looked
shocked.
at me.
However,
Ling
as a
Qianxue really
ninja, I
remembered
can't
this
betray
time.
the Sakura group.
I didn't see anything.
I don't want Grandpa
My
and
eyes
sister
have an
to be
automatic
hurt,
filter
so
function.
I came here to let you
After
prepare
Xiao
in
Chen
advance.
finished, he opened the
Ling
window and
Qianxue
jumped
said.
out.
To be
Yeah?
honest, I was
Ling
also
Qianxue
very
was
shocked
stunned.
when you suddenly
This
said
is the
this
4th
news.
floor.
Then, however,
Does
when
Yuri got
Shishima
off the bed
Kigoro
and
walked
walked
to
to
the
the
windowsill, there was
Ling
no one
Tian
outside.
was now beginning to
She
worry about
subconsciously
Ling
wanted to
Qianxue's
look
safety.
downstairs to see if there was anyone. Suddenly, from the corner of her eye, she saw Xiao Chen's
Chapter
dormitory across the
8:16.
street.
I don't
The
know.
lights had suddenly
He is
turned
currently
on.
plotting with
Not
the
only
people
that,
behind the
but Ling
scenes to
Qianxue
attack
also
the
saw a
research
figure
institute.
standing on the opposite
Ling
windowsill.
Qianxue said,
It vaguely
I came to
looked
tell
like
you
Xiao
this
Chen.
news, it's time
She
to go.
grabbed the binoculars on
Okay,
the
you can go
windowsill
back.
and looked over.
But leave some
To her
blood and hair
surprise,
behind,
she
I'll
saw
go and
Xiao
test
Chen
it.
grinning at her.
Although Ling
Ling
Tian
Qianxue
believed
rubbed
her,
her
he
eyes
still
in
needed to
disbelief.
confirm it.
If it wasn't for the fact that
Ling
she
Qianxue
clearly
remembered
remembered
that
that pulled
Xiao
out a
Chen
few
had been
strands
here
of her
just
hair,
now,
then
she
used
would
a
have thought
dagger
that she
to
was
prick her
dreaming.
finger and drip some
After
blood
all,
into a
how could
teacup on the
Xiao Chen
table.
be so fast
She
and
then
appear
said to
on the
Ling
opposite
Tian,
side in an
"Forgive
instant?"
your granddaughter for
Shaking
not
her
being
head,
able to
Ling
control
Qianxue
herself.
couldn't figure it
I'll
out.
take my leave
She
first.
closed the curtains
After
and turned
saying
off the
this,
lights.
Ling Qianxue quickly
She felt that
left.
Xiao Chen was a
Ling
little too
Tian didn't
strange.
stop her, and
How could
neither
he
did
appear
Xiao
just
Chen.
like that?
Looking
In
at
the
Ling
dark,
Qianxue's
Xiao
back,
Chen shouldn't be
Ling
able to
Tian
see her,
couldn't help
right?
but sigh. Chief Ling,
She
I feel
lowered
that
her
this
voice
matter
and
is
almost
very
mouthed,
strange.
Xiao Even if Ling
big bastard,
Qianxue is
come
your
hit me if you
granddaughter,
can.
there might be a
Forget
problem
it.
with her motives.
Suddenly,
Xiao
Xiao
Chen's
Chen
voice
said,
came from the window.
I also feel that.
Ling Tian wasn't the
heart
kind of
almost
person who
exploded.
couldn't distinguish
Xiao Chen,
between
you
public
bastard.
and private matters.
How did you hear that?
He sighed.
I heard it when you
but
said
I've
it,
long suspected
said
that there
Xiao
was
Chen.
something wrong
This
with
doesn't
Ling
make
Qianyu's
sense.
sister.
Ling
But I never
Qianyu was
had the
going
chance
crazy.
to verify it.
If there's nothing
Seems
else,
that my
I'm
guess
leaving.
is correct.
After saying that, Xiao Chen
Who is
went
Ling
silent.
Qianyu's sister?
Ling Qianyu got
Xiao
up
Chen
quickly
thought
and
of
went
Ling
to the window
Qianxue's
as
deskmate.
Looking out,
I can't
she
say
saw
for
Xiao
now.
Chen waving
Ling
at her from
Tian
the
said,
window a few
this
hundred
involves
meters
some
away.
secrets, as well
Oh
as
my
the
God.
internal affairs
He's
of the
not even
Secret
as good as Xiao
Investigation
Wu and
Bureau.
Xiao Zhao.
I've just
I'm
become
going
the
crazy,
chief, so I don't have
Ling
the authority
Qianyu
to
grabbed
tell
her
you these
hair.
things.
Am I crazy?
Oh, it's fine.
Ling
But I'll
Qianyu
see what
closed the
happens
curtains
first.
and didn't even dare to
Xiao
talk.
Chen said. She lay on the bed
I'll
and
go
fell
verify
asleep.
the
In a
authenticity
Japanese
of this
club in
Ling
Lan
Qianxue
City,
first.
two people
Ling
were
Tian
sitting on
picked up
both
the hair
sides
and
of the
blood and
coffee
left.
table.
Xiao Chen
Mr.
had
Yidao,
actually
you
set
know
up a
who I am.
small-scale monitoring
So, I won't
formation
treat
on
you
Ling
badly
Qianxue.
for this cooperation.
However, this formation
Sitting
was
on the
rather
right
weak.
side of the coffee
It
table
would
was a
disappear
young
not
man
long
in
after
white.
Ling Qianxue
His
returned.
arrogance was
So
written
young
all
Master
over his
Xing
face,
shouldn't be able to
as if he was
discover it.
always superior
After
to
Ling
others.
Tian left,
Yes,
Xiao Chen
young
also
Master
quickly
Xing
took out his
Yi
flying
Dao
sword
Kikuo
and
was a
left.
person who
Ling
wandered
Qinshu
between the
then
martial
returned to
arts
the
world
hall.
and the Jianghu
Yashima
organization.
Kuru was already
He was an
waiting
ambitious
for her.
person.
Luckily,
To be
young
able to
Master
be
Xing
so
was not in the
respectful
hall.
to the person in front
This
of him,
allowed Xiao Chen
it was
to let out
obvious
a
that
sigh
the
of
person in
relief.
front of him was not
Ling
an ordinary
Qinshu,
person.
did you complete the mission?
But young Master
Yashima
Xing,
Kuru
I'm
asked
afraid you also
impatiently.
know that it's very
Yes,
difficult
Master
for
Ling
us to
seems
set
that
up a
even though you
research
know the
institute
truth,
after our
you didn't
previous
betray the
failure.
Sakura group.
During this period
I'm
of
very
time,
happy.
Night Island
Well,
Incubus
that's
lay
good.
low and did
It
not
seems
dare
that
to
even though
cause
you
any
know the
more
truth,
trouble. You didn't
nominally
betray the
he was
Sakura
no longer
group.
in Lan City.
I'm very happy. In reality, he was
I am a
secretly
ninja
living
of
in
the Sakura
seclusion.
group. I will not
Meanwhile,
betray
Ling
the
Qinshu
organization.
was sent out to do some
Ling
missions to
Qinshu
earn
said
some money
loudly.
and heavenly treasures.
Sakura group.
No one knew how
Yashima
young Master
Kuru
Xing
said.
got in touch
By
with
the way,
Yidao
Lord
Kikuo
Yidao
and wanted
if
to
we are really
cooperate
going
with
to
him.
attack the research
With the
institute,
support of the
why did
internal
you tell
martial
Xiao
arts
Chen in
world,
advance?
what are you afraid of?
Didn't the plan fail?
Young Master Xing
Ling
sneered
Qinshu
with
asked in
disdain.
confusion.
Mr. Yidao,
You don't have to worry
understand
about
that if you miss this
This is
opportunity
young
to
Master
cooperate
Xing's
with
arrangement.
us, you will have
He has
no
his own
fate with the
plans.
internal martial
Ti
arts
Ling,
world in
the
the
young
future.
Test
It will
plan.
be impossible for you to go any further in the future.
Ling,
I understand.
teat him.
I also
Ling,
hope to
I don't
cooperate
Ling,
with you,
Ling,
but it
Ling
should
to
be
Galal
within my
Tool.
capabilities.
Okay, then I'll
right?
take my leave.
Yidao
Ling
Kikuo
Qinshu
smiled
said.
bitterly.
Okay, I'll
The
take
current
my leave.
security of the research
Ling Qinshu
institute is
said.
very tight.
Go.
Trying to
Yashima
barge in is
Kuru looked at
undoubtedly
Ling
courting
Qinshu as
death.
back.
Yidao
His
Kikuo
eyes
muttered
flashed
in his
with
heart.
greed.
If it's
However,
so easy,
Ling Qinshu
why do you
as
people of the
virginity
internal
couldn't be
martial
wasted.
arts world have
The
such good
Sakura
skills?
group had their own
What do you want
arrangements.
me to do?
If he lost
Isn't
her,
it because we can
Yashima
get our
Kuru
hands on
could
some
still
guns
enjoy
and
her
cannons?
often.
Even
However,
so,
we
the
will
first
only
time
be
had to
cannon
be
fodder.
saved for the most
When the
important
time
moment.
comes, we will all
Xiao
be
Chen
dead.
was even more
How
confused.
can we talk about the
Why
follow-up
did it seem
benefits?
like all of this was true? Other than the fact that
I know
Yukio
that
and
to you,
Ling,
the
the internal
had
martial
planned
arts
this out
world of Great
beforehand.
Xia has
Ling
always been very
Qinshu
mysterious.
didn't lie to anyone either.
There are some martial
But why
arts
did
secret
young Master
manuals that
Xing
you want
lure
the
him
most.
to the research institute?
This is not a problem.
What was his plan?
I can guarantee that
Xiao
as
Chen
long as you
couldn't
get
help
your
but
hands
fall
on the
into deep
refinement
thought.
method of the meteoric
However, no
iron,
matter how he
I will
thought
help
about
you
it, he
obtain
couldn't
these
come
secret
to a
manuals.
conclusion.
Young
Fortunately,
Master
one
Xing
thing
said
was certain.
slowly. Yashima Kuru
Is
has
this for
really
real?
given up on the plan
Young
to
Master
kidnap
Xing,
Ling
do you mean what
Qinshu.
you say?
Xiao
Chen
Chen
could rest
Kikuo's
assured.
eyes lit up.
Xiao Chen,
He
the
had been
results of
coveting
Ling
the martial
Qinshu's
arts of the
DNA
internal
test
martial arts
are out.
world for a long time.
There's no problem.
Those things of the
Ling
external
Tian said
martial arts
slowly over
world
the
were
phone.
no secret.
Hearing Ling
Yidao
Tian's low
Kikuo had
voice,
gotten his
Xiao
hands on
Chen's
some
heart
of them,
skipped a
but to
beat.
be honest, they
Although
were not
he was
very
mentally
useful in
prepared,
improving
he
his
still
ninjutsu.
couldn't believe it.
Furthermore, the
Looks like Ling
organization was
Qinshu
rather
wasn't lying.
dissatisfied with his
She's
recent
indeed my
failures.
granddaughter,
If
and
he could get his
Chen Yu's
hands on the
biological
secret
sister.
manuals of the
Ling
internal
Tian's
martial
hands
arts
trembled
world,
as he
it
stared
would
at the
definitely be a
results.
great contribution.
His face was full of
Thinking of
disbelief.
this, he had already made his decision.
Xiao Chen was
Of course,
extremely
I mean
shocked.
what I say.
He didn't expect
Young Master
Yashima
Xing
Kuru
laughed.
to be telling the
Actually,
truth.
the whole thing is
But
not
wasn't
as
this a little
complicated
too
as you think.
miraculous?
According
After
to our
thinking for a while,
investigations,
Xiao Chen
the current
asked,
head of the
Chief Lin,
Supernatural
could there be a
Investigation
mistake?
Bureau,
Although
Ling
modern
Tian's
medical
granddaughter
equipment
is
is
studying
indeed
at
very
Lan
advanced,
City University.
it can't be 100%
When the time comes,
accurate,
all
right?
you have to do is
Xiao
kidnap
Chen
her and you
remembered
can
to
get
report
whatever
in the
information
news.
you want.
Some people had indeed gone through a DNA test, but there was indeed a misdiagnosis.
Chapter 811.
This caused the family to fall out and even went to court.
was taken aback and
After
frowned.
a second test,
If it's so
it was
simple,
discovered
why don't you
that it
just
was all a
kidnap her?
misunderstanding.
What else do you need
I've
from
also
us?
considered what you said.
It's very simple.
I've done a few tests,
Although
but the
we,
results
the
are
inner
all the
martial
same.
arts circle, are
Ling
strong, we
Tian
still
smiled
can't do
bitterly
whatever
and
we
shook
want
his
in the
head.
secular world.
Also,
You
this
should
is
know
not
that
because
the
we are
supernatural
afraid,
investigation
but because we
department
have an
has a
agreement
specialized
within the inner
department in
martial
charge of
arts
these
circle
things.
that we can't
The
meddle in
results
the
are
affairs of the
faster and more
secular world.
accurate than other places.
Young Master Xing said,
Looks like
That's
I've
why
worried
I
too
need
much.
to borrow your hands
Xiao
and
Chen
commit the
nodded to
crime under the
himself.
name of the Japanese.
Since Ling Tian was the
There was
acting
something that
chief
young
of the
Master Xing
Supernatural
did not say.
Investigation Department,
The method
he
of
naturally
refining
had
the
his own
meteoric
channels.
metal was a
Since
secret
Ling
that no
Qinshu
one
is your
dared to
granddaughter,
approach.
why would
If
she
he
go
could
to
get his
Japan
hands on
and become a
secretly,
ninja of
he
the
could use
Sakura
it to
group?
make friends with
Why
other
would she
sects
work
when
for
he returned to
Yashima
his
Kuru?
sect.
For
Ling
now,
Tian
only
hesitated
young
for
Master
a
Xing
moment
knew about
as if he
this.
had made a big
If he made a
decision
big
and said
move and other
slowly,
people in the
back
martial
then,
world found out
because of
about
some
it,
reason,
they would
Chen Yu's
flock to
sister
him and he
Ling
would have nothing to
Qinshu
do with it.
was sent to
As
assist
for
in
the
the inner
actions
martial
of the
arts
Japanese, not
I
many
think that
people
there must
would
have
pay
been a
attention
problem
to
in
them.
the middle.
Even if they knew, they would think that it was for money. Just as
After
Xiao
many
Chen was
choices,
about to ask
young
what the
Master
reason was,
Xing finally
Ling
found
Tian
Naishima
seemed to know
Kikuo.
what he was thinking and
I
said,
understand.
"Right now,
Since
I
that's
can
the
only
case,
tell you
there's no
problem. Although this is a matter of the
Kikuo
Ling
nodded.
family, it
When do
involves
we
too
act?
many people.
The
I
sooner the
can't make
better.
the decision on
Young
my own.
Master Xing was
There are
afraid
some
that
things
a
that I
long
need to
delay would
ask
bring
my
trouble.
superiors before
There
I
was
can
no such
decide
thing
whether or
as an
not to tell you.
impenetrable wall in the world.
It's all right, I can
It was
understand.
just a matter of time.
However, he
Does
had to
Chin
act
Yu know
as soon
about
as
this?
possible.
I
Xiao
think
Chen
we
didn't
can do
seem
it
to
tonight.
mind. Instead,
Tonight.
he furrowed his brows as he tried to
Naishima
recall.
Kikuo gritted
For
his
some
teeth
reason,
and said to
after
Ling
hearing
Qianxue
Ling
who was
Tian's
pouring
words,
tea,
a light
Ling
bulb went
Qianxue
off in his
go
head.
and kidnap
It
Ling
was as if
Tian's
he had thought
granddaughter.
of something.
Can she complete
However,
the
his
mission?
thoughts flashed by too
Yes,
quickly,
Master
and he
Naishima.
couldn't grasp the
Ling
details in
Qianxue
time.
nodded immediately.
Chin Yu doesn't know
Looking
yet.
at her strength,
Remember
she
to
seems
keep
be
this
a
a
martial
secret.
master at most.
Don't tell her for now.
She just broke through
Ling
not too long
Tian
ago.
said solemnly.
Can she do it?
After all, this
Young
matter
Master
had been
Xing
hidden
looked
for
at
more
Ling
than 10
Qianxue
years
and said with disdain,
because it involved some
Isn't a
secrets
martial
as
master
well as
enough
the
to
internal
deal with a
affairs
girl
of
who
the
doesn't even have
supernatural
the strength to
investigation
trust a
department?
chicken?
Ling Qianyu,
Naishima
who was an
Kikuo
ordinary
laughed.
person,
It's
had
just
never
a
been
kidnapping.
told. If we send out a
if Ling
high-level
Tian were to
expert,
tell Chin Yu
wouldn't
so
that be
abruptly,
against young Master
she might
Xing's
find it hard
original
to
intention?
accept.
In the secular world, a martial master is already a very powerful
He wasn't a person
existence.
who liked to gossip.
Well, you're right.
Normally, he wouldn't
Then I'll
talk
wait
about
for your
such
good
things
news.
with Chinyu.
Young Master
Ai,
Xing nodded and
it's a
said,
pity that although
after you
Ling
kidnap
Qianxue
her
is
just
my
to tame her,
granddaughter, I
don't
can't
do
judge
anything
whether
and
her
don't
surrender
hurt her.
is real or
Wait
fake.
for my news, and
Ling
when I tell
Tian
you
let
to
out a
release
sigh.
her, just do
You
it.
also felt it yesterday.
Although young Master
Her
Xing
motives
came
are
from the
indeed
martial arts
suspicious.
world, he didn't want to have a
Chief
bad
Ling,
relationship
I heard that
with the
they are definitely
supernatural
going to attack
investigation
the
bureau
research
in the
institute.
secular world.
Their goal is
After
to get
all,
me to go.
every level had its
Xiao
own
Chen
rules.
didn't explain how
The
he heard the
supernatural
news.
investigation
Instead,
bureau
he said
strictly
directly,
forbade them from
since they're
interfering
targeted
with
with me,
the affairs of
I'll
the
be able to
secular
find
world
out once I go to the research institute.
If it weren't for the fact
Since
that the
that's the
refining
case,
method
you can
of the
go and prepare
extraterrestrial
yourself and go to the
meteorite iron was
research
so
institute.
tempting, young
Ling
Master
Tian
Xing
said
wouldn't have taken the
decisively.
risk to come
Then
here.
he said a little
Therefore, now
gloomily,
that he had
however,
obtained the item,
I don't know
he
why
naturally
they want
wanted
you
to
to
hurt
go.
Ling Qianyu.
We can only
You
wait
would just
and
let
see.
her go.
Of
We can
course,
only
no
wait
problem.
and see.
Young
Xiao Chen
Master
looked at the
Xing
window
didn't
of
want
the
to hurt
opposite
Ling Qianyu,
dormitory, but
however,
Yakashima
this
Kikuo
side,
didn't want to
Ling
hurt
Tian
Ling
knew what
Qianyu
Xiao
either.
Chen meant and said,
If you really hurt
as for
Ling
your current
Qianyu,
job,
young
I will
Master
find
Xing
someone
could
else
just
to
go
take
back
over.
to the inner martial
You can
arts
go
world,
and prepare
but
yourself
Yakashima
before heading
Kikuo
to
would
the
be in deep
research
trouble.
institute.
Even if he
All right,
escaped
remember
back
to
to
say
the
goodbye
island,
to Chinyu
there would
before you
definitely
leave.
be an endless
She
number
really
of
wants
agents
to
to
thank you in
assassinate
person.
him.
He did not
After
want to
saying
live this
that,
kind of
Ling
life.
Tian ordered
Please
someone to
give me
find
the
Xiao
information
Zhao
on
and
the
Xiao Wu and
kidnappers.
send them to continue
Ling
protecting
Qianxue said.
Chenyu. Although
Here
he
it
was
is.
sure that Chenyu would
Young
be
Master
fine,
Xing was
he still
already
needed
prepared.
to observe her for a
He
while
handed
longer.
a set of
If
information
the
to
other
Ling
party played a
Qianxue.
trick on
Although
Chenyu right
Ling
after
Qianxue
Xiao
was
Chen
masked,
retreated
she
and
had a
kidnapped her,
voluptuous figure.
wouldn't he have been fooled?
Young Master Xing
Xiao
didn't
Zhao
even
and
look at
Xiao
her.
Wu originally
What a
thought
strange
that after
person.
Xiao Chen took
Ling
over,
Qianxue
they
took
would be
the
able to heat
information
a
and
sigh
looked
of
at it.
relief. But when she saw Ling Qianyu's name, she couldn't help
Who would
but
have
be
thought
startled.
that in just a few
Ling
days,
Qianyu?
Xiao Chen wouldn't
What
be
a
able to
strange
handle
name.
it anymore, and
But
this
then
mess
Ling
would land
Qianxue
on their heads
continued
again.
to look at the
This
information.
Missy was hard to
The
please,
information
and they
was
didn't
very
have Xiao
simple.
Chen's ability.
After all, the
They could
target
only
was not a
prepare themselves to
complicated
be
person.
scolded. He didn't have any strength
after
and
they
he
went
lived
over
alone in the dormitory.
Chenyu didn't make things
This kind of
difficult for
person
them
was
at
the
all.
easiest to deal
Instead,
with.
they were confused.
He had no roommates,
Of course, this
and
was
even
a
if he
story for another
disappeared,
time.
no one would find out.
On the other side, Xiao
Okay, I
Chen hung up
understand.
the phone and
I
packed
will
his
go
things.
now.
Then
Ling
he jogged
Qianxue
along
nodded
the
and
normal
started
route
to
to
move.
Chenyu's dormitory.
A few shuttles disappeared
Xiao Chen
into the
rarely
night.
appeared near the
Young
female
Master
dormitory
Xing,
during
I wish
the
us
day.
success.
Actually, being a
Yakashima
hedonistic
Kikuo
young
took out a
master was
bottle
quite
of red
handsome,
wine.
especially
like
after
this
he
stuff.
became a cultivator.
I like to drink white
Thus,
wine.
there were many girls
Young
who
Master
pointed at him
Xing
and
frowned.
gossiped about him.
To him, red
However,
wine of
when
any
they
year
saw
was
him
bitter
enter
and
the
hard to
female
swallow.
dormitory,
People
they
of
all
the inner
left in
martial arts
disappointment.
world still liked
It
white
turned
wine.
out that he was already
Well
taken.
said. I have
However,
Mount
some
here.
gossipy girls still
Yakashima
secretly
Kikuo
followed
decided
behind
to
Xiao
put the
Chen.
red wine
They
back
wanted
into
to
the
see
wine
which girl
cabinet.
was so fast.
Then he took out
If
a
it wasn't
bottle
a
of
beauty,
Moutai and
as
opened
the
it.
saying goes,
Only then
even
did
though
young
the
Master
grass is
Xing
taken,
nod in
I will loosen
satisfaction.
the soil.
Ling Qianxue
However, when
disappeared
Xiao
into the
Chen
night.
stopped outside
Soon
Chenyu's
she arrived at
dormitory,
Lanqing
the girls who
University.
followed him all
At
left.
this time, Ling
Loosening the
Qianxue was
soil
dressed like a
required a
student.
suitable soil.
She was dressed
Although
in
they didn't know
sportswear with a
Chenyu's
youthful
background,
ponytail.
they knew that they
She
couldn't
also
compare
wore
to
a
her
pair
in
of
terms of
exquisite
looks.
glasses and had headphones plugged in her ears. She leisurely walked into Lanqing University. Because
Chapter
Lanqing
8:17.
University was not a
Xiao
completely
Chen
closed
ignored
school,
the commotion
and
behind
today
him
was
and
a
knocked on the
weekend.
door.
There were still
After
students
waiting for a
shuttling
while,
around the
he
campus,
realized
even
that
though
there
it
was
was
no
already
response,
past
so
10
he
o'clock in
patiently
the
knocked
evening.
a few more times.
Some were dating,
In the
some were
end, there was
returning
still
to
no
school, and
response.
some were sneaking out
Could
for
it
a
be that
one-night
this chick
stand.
is still asleep?
Ling Qianxue
Xiao
walked
Chen
into
looked
the
at the
female
time and muttered,
dormitory without
he
any
might as well
questioning.
use his divine
Even a guy
sense to
like
monitor
Xiao
the
Chen could enter
situation.
during the day,
Ling Qianyu
let
was
alone a
indeed
girl
still
dressed like a
sleeping
student.
soundly under the blanket.
Helplessly,
Walking
Xiao
into the
Chen
building,
took out his
Ling
phone and
Qianxue
dialed
walked
Ling
up the
Qianyu's
stairs
number.
lightly and
But
arrived at
after
the
a few
door of room
rings, Ling Qianyu's
432.
angry roar
But
came
she didn't
through the
knock on the
receiver.
door.
Xiao
She
Chen,
took
what are
out
you
the
doing?
master key from her
Calling
pocket
me
and
so
quickly
early in the
opened
morning?
door.
Are you going to let
However,
me
she
sleep?
didn't make any sound during the process.
I have something to tell
The
you.
door opened and
Open
Ling
the door
Qianxue
first.
tiptoed in.
Xiao Chen
At
didn't
this
expect
time,
Ling
Ling
Qianxue
Qianxue
to be
was
so
half
angry
asleep.
when she woke up.
She was tortured by
He hung
Xiao
up
Chen
the
to the point of insanity.
Felt his ears ringing.
Just when she was about to fall asleep,
rub them.
she suddenly felt
he
as
heard
if
the
someone
sound
had
of
entered.
hurried footsteps
Ling
coming from the
Qinshu
room.
subconsciously
The
called
moment
out,
the door
"Xiao
suddenly
Chen,
opened,
what are you doing
Xiao
here
Chen
again?"
was stunned by the white
This was
light
almost
in
like
front of
sleep
him.
talking, but it
He
gave
didn't
Ling
expect
Qinshu
Ling
a big
Qinshu
shock.
to appear naked in
Xiao
front
Chen
of him.
came. And
Where
because
was
she
Xiao Chen?
opened the door so
How did Ling
forcefully,
Qinshu
the
know
little
Xiao
white
Chen?
bunnies in front
Although
of her
she was
chest
the
were like two
granddaughter of
pieces
the
of pudding.
Supernatural
It
Investigation
made Xiao Chen
Bureau's
dizzy
chief
and he
Ling
couldn't
Tian.
move his eyes away.
She shouldn't know Xiao Chen.
What is it that can't
But
wait
in the next
until I
moment,
wake up?
Ling Qinshu
Why must
knew
you?
that Ling
Ling
Qinshu
Qinshu
was
was
sleep talking
furious.
because Ling
Last
Qinshu
night,
was
he
already lying
tossed
on the
and
bed.
turned until the middle of the
Slightly
night before
relieved,
going to
Ling
sleep.
Qinshu carefully
It's only
walked
6
to Ling
o'clock
Qinshu
and he's
bed.
already waking me
But
up.
before she reached
halfway
it, she
through
suddenly
her words,
stopped
she
and
suddenly
her hair
saw
stood on
Xiao
end
Chen staring at her.
because she felt
She
someone
subconsciously
pat her from
followed
behind.
Xiao Chen's
Was
gaze
it an
and looked
illusion?
down.
Ling Qinshu was sure that when she entered the room,
she
came
closed
from
the door
female
and Ling
dormitory.
Qinshu's room
Ling
was a
Qinshu
suite.
finally remembered
She could
that
clearly
she slept
see
in
what
a
was in the
bathrobe
living
after
room and
taking
there was
a
no
shower
one there.
yesterday.
And this
But when
person
she
patted
woke up,
Ling
the
Qinshu
bathrobe
and then
was long
stopped
gone.
patting her.
She was
This
in a
made
hurry
Ling
to open the
Qinshu
door
feel
and
that it
forgot
was an
about
illusion, so she
Ling
turned around to
Qinshu's
see what was
screams
behind
immediately
her.
caused a
But when
commotion
she
in the
turned around,
dormitory.
she realized
Many
that there was
people
no
came
one
from
behind
afar
her.
to see what was
She
happening.
patted her chest.
Ling Qinshu
It was
didn't want to
indeed
be
an
the center
illusion.
of attention.
But before
In
her
a
heart
moment of
completely calmed
desperation,
down,
she immediately
felt
covered
someone
her
pat her
private
from
parts
behind
and turned
again.
around.
Ling Qian
She lowered her voice and said angrily,
this time it felt more
"Stupid
real.
Xiao Qin,
If it was an illusion just now,
close
it
the
was
door."
definitely not an illusion.
After
now
saying
that she
that,
was on
she
guard.
quickly ran into the inner
Subconsciously
room,
turning
not
around,
caring
Ling
that
Qian,
the beautiful
screamed,
scenery behind her had been
"Hello,
seen by a
Xue
certain
Qin,
someone.
what's your name?"
Xiao
Qian
Qin shrugged
asked.
helplessly, closed the door, and
where
sat
did
on
you
the
come
sofa.
from?
He thought to
Ling
himself,
Qian,
if I
she
wanted
was
to
about
peep,
to go
I would have
crazy
used
this
the
time.
monitoring array.
When she came in,
Why
Xiao
wait
Qin
until
wasn't
now?
there.
The onlookers
He
saw that
suddenly
the door
appeared
was
out of
closed
nowhere
and there
and
was no
almost
one
scared
there.
her to death.
There was nothing to see, so
Originally,
they all
Ling
dispersed.
Qian was about to fall asleep
What did
and
you
was
see
half
just
awake
now?
when Xiao Qin
Not
came
long
again.
after,
In
Ling
the
Qian
end,
put
she
on
was
her
startled
pajamas
awake
and
by
walked
Ling
out of the
Qian
bedroom.
Shue's scream.
She glared
She
at Xiao
immediately
Qin
opened
angrily.
her eyes and
Didn't
saw
I
two
tell
people
you?
standing in
My
front of her.
eyes have an automatic
She also let
filtering
out a
function.
series of "ah."
Xiao Qin, why are you
Some
here
dirty
again?
things and things
And
that
you brought
shouldn't be
someone
seen
else?
will be filtered out.
What do you want? It's like a mosaic.
Ling Qian Shue
Xiao
still
Qin
didn't
sat on the
realize
sofa
that this
with his
Ling
hands
Qian
spread
Shue
out
was here
and
to
said
kidnap
innocently.
her.
She
This is
thought
the
that
difference
Xiao Qin
between
brought her along
cavalry
with
and
him.
infantry.
Oh, there's
Xiao
a thief
Qin
in your
added
room.
in his heart.
I'm here to catch her. At least you
Xiao
know what's
Qin
good
pointed
for
at
you.
Ling Qian Shue
Ling
and
Qian, you
said,
didn't know what was going on in Xiao Qin's
You don't
mind.
know her?
She
Ling
rolled her
Qian
eyes
Shue
at him and poured
immediately
herself a
became
glass
vigilant.
of water. She drank it in one gulp and wiped her mouth.
You're disturbing my sweet dreams so early in the morning.
What's so important? Did my grandfather give you a new mission and transfer you to another place? Ling Qianyu said this on purpose. In her opinion, Xiao Qin's mission to protect her would probably last for a long time. What she didn't expect was that Xiao Qin nodded and said, "Yes, I just received instructions from Bureau Chief Ling, so I came to say goodbye to you and prepare to leave." From Xiao Qin's point of view, the special agent protecting this little girl probably had to be changed every few days. Otherwise, no one would be able to endure her reckless temper. However, she was probably used to it. Are you serious? You've only been here for a few days. Ling Qinyu was stunned. She was really surprised. She had just accepted Xiao Qin as a bodyguard a little. Why was he leaving now? At this moment, she suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of loss in her heart. She didn't know why. I can't help it. There's a more important mission for me to carry out, Xiao Qin explained simply. Then who's going to take over your position? Ling Qinyu asked subconsciously. She felt that no matter who it was, it didn't seem to be as good as Xiao Qin. It's probably Xiao Wu and Xiao Zhao from before. They've been with you for a while, so they'll be more familiar with you. They'll get used to it quickly. Well, that's goodbye. I'm leaving. See you again if there's a chance. Xiao Qin stretched and stood up to leave. Wait. Ling Qinyu shouted out for some reason. Seeing Xiao Qin turn his head to look at her, she hurriedly said, "These days. It's all thanks to your protection that I wasn't captured by that female ninja. I want to treat you to a meal to thank you for taking care of me. It can also be considered as an apology for my previous impolite attitude." Ling Qinyu stuttered. She didn't know why she suddenly seemed to be nervous and her face was a little hot. There's no need, right? I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do. Xiao Qin said lightly. Well, you don't have to be so polite. But I don't have money to treat you to a big meal. Let's go to the school cafeteria and have something to eat. After Ling Qinyu dropped this sentence, she turned back to the inner room and quickly closed the door. Her voice came from behind the door, "Wait for me for a while. I'll change my clothes. Don't sneak out and don't peek." Okay. Xiao Qin reluctantly agreed. It wasn't that he disliked the school cafeteria food. When he and Tang Tang sold fried dough sticks in the morning market street, he had eaten many cheap things. It was already good to be able to eat a normal meal in the cafeteria. It was just that deep in his heart he didn't want to have too much contact with Ling Qinyu. After all, the task of protecting her had ended. In the future they would basically have no chance to meet, so there was no need to eat together. Although she was a beauty, Xiao Qin was no longer the playboy he used to be. He would avoid her if he could. He still had to go to the research institute. If he was late, that young Master Xing would make a surprise attack and find out that he was not there. It would be bad if there were more complications. Before Xiao Qin's mind finished turning, Ling Qinyu came out. She casually changed into casual clothes and said, "Let's go." The two walked together in the direction of the school cafeteria. Because the high-end student dormitory building was relatively far from the cafeteria, and the time they arrived was just in time for dinner, so they met a lot of students on the way to eat. After those students saw Ling Qinyu and Xiao Qin, most of them looked surprised. Although they didn't directly come up to talk, they were not far behind the two, pointing and whispering. Look, isn't that Ling Qinyu? Didn't she claim to live alone? Why would she go to the cafeteria with other boys?" A gossipy girl excitedly pulled the sissy next to her and said, "It's true, it's really her. I remember that she usually has little contact with boys. It's rare to even talk more than a few words. What's going on today?"
Did the sun rise from the west? The sissy was also very surprised and flicked his thumb and middle finger. I think she's just pretending. A girl with heavy makeup next to them snorted coldly. What kind of rich girl is she? Doesn't she just throw herself at a handsome guy with all her might? But the boy next to her is quite handsome. I wonder which faculty he's from? I'll go hit on him later and ask. Are you trying to hit on him? I think you're going to eat him up. Her best friend teased. I wonder if that guy can satisfy your appetite. Will he be squeezed dry by you? Just as everyone was joking and joking, a short boy with a protruding mouth and monkey cheeks stared at the backs of Xiao Chen and Ling Qinyu. His eyes turned thoughtfully, then he suddenly turned around and left the crowd, running in the direction of the school building. The exterior of Lanqing University's cafeteria looked similar to Songning Second High School, but it wasn't as luxurious as Second High School. There were only the first and second floors. The first floor was a general cafeteria that looked like a fast food restaurant, suitable for ordinary students to consume. The second floor was a place where students could order. Like other restaurants, there were also private rooms in the main hall. Students could order according to their preferences. However, Lanqing University was just an ordinary public university, unlike Songning Second High School, which was a private academy. Therefore, the dishes in the cafeteria on the second floor weren't that rich. Although many students from wealthy families would usually come to the second floor to consume, they would at most hold a small birthday party. There wouldn't be any high-end dishes. In any case, seafood such as Australian lobster and grouper were definitely absent. When Xiao Chen and Ling Qinyu arrived, it was just in time for lunch. The fast food windows on the first floor were all lined up, and the tables and chairs placed in the middle of the cafeteria were also filled with students and teachers who came to eat. Looking over, it was densely packed, and there were also many people looking for seats with their trays of food in their hands. Originally, Xiao Chen wanted to just eat some fast food, but unfortunately, there were no empty seats on the first floor. Moreover, Ling Qinyu insisted on treating him to a good meal, so the two went to the second floor. Alright, I'll just have these. After finding a random seat and sitting down, Ling Qinyu took the menu and ordered, then passed it to Xiao Chen. Take a look. Order whatever you want to eat. I don't know what you usually like to eat or avoid. That's all. I'm not picky, I can eat anything. Oh, and give me another serving of rice. I want a big one. But hurry up. Xiao Chen waved his hand and sent the waiter away. He was completely indifferent to what he ate. In the past, he could even make do with the steamed buns and flour rolls from roadside noodle shops. Even the nutritious instant noodles were just a snap of his fingers. He only urged the waiter to serve the dishes as soon as possible. After eating, he still had to rush to the research institute. Xiao Chen, I know that I had a bad attitude before, so I wanted to treat you to a meal to apologize. But now it seems like you're very unwilling? Ling Qinyu pouted and complained. Chapter 8:18. After all, many boys in school took the initiative to invite her to eat, but she ignored them. It was rare for her to treat someone to a meal, so why did Xiao Chen look so reluctant? A large portion of rice, are you a glutton? Ling Qinyu silently criticized. No, you're thinking too much. I still have a mission, so I want to finish eating as soon as possible so that I can carry out the mission. Xiao Chen explained. In fact, he basically heard the students' rumors just now, so he wanted to finish eating quickly and cut ties with Ling Qinyu as soon as possible. This would be good for both of them. Oh, okay. Ling Qinyu saw that Xiao Chen's attitude was neither salty nor indifferent, and she felt sullen for no reason in her heart. She didn't want to talk to him anymore, so she took out her phone and lowered her head to play with it. There weren't as many students eating on the second floor as there were on the first floor, and the waiter quickly served all the dishes. Xiao Chen didn't stand on ceremony, picked up the chopsticks and wolfed down the food. On the other hand, Ling Qinyu looked like a lady from a wealthy family, eating in an orderly manner, and from time to time looked up at Xiao Chen. She seriously suspected that her grandfather was mistreating his employees. Look at Xiao Chen's ferocious appearance as if he hadn't eaten for a few days. Is the Supernatural Investigation Bureau's cafeteria full every day? Not long after eating, they heard dang 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 footsteps coming from the stairs, and two men ran up from downstairs. One of them was the boy with a protruding mouth and ape-like chin in the crowd just now. Young Master Zheng, look, they're sitting over there. At this time, the man with a protruding mouth and ape-like chin pointed at Xiao Chen's table and said to the rich young master beside him, I didn't lie to you, right? I don't know where that kid came from, but he actually dared to eat at the same table with sister-in-law Qinyu. He clearly doesn't respect you, young Master Zheng.
F*ck his grandma's leg, that kid is quite bold. He actually dared to steal my corner. The boy called young Master Zheng stared at Xiao Qin fiercely, waved his hand and said, let's go meet him. After he finished speaking, he walked towards Xiao Qin and Ling Qinyu with a displeased expression. The monkey-faced man followed behind him. Although Xiao Qin was engrossed in eating, he had already noticed two people walking towards him from the corner of his eyes. Their expressions were ferocious. However, he ignored it and continued to eat the food on the table as if nothing had happened. Qinyu? It's you, what a coincidence. Are you also eating in the cafeteria? Young Master Zheng walked to the table and put on a kind smile. Ling Qinyu glanced at him and continued eating as if she hadn't heard anything. Young Master Zheng was slightly embarrassed. He deliberately looked at the dishes on the table and said disdainfully, sigh. Some people were treating, but why did they always treat low-grade dishes? Is this dish edible? Only poor people can do that. Qinshua, why don't I treat you to a big meal? There's a new seafood restaurant near the school. It's said that the lobsters and abalones are all slaughtered on the same day, so they're very fresh. Thank you for your kindness, but I'm allergic to seafood and can't eat such high-end food. Ling Qinyu said without raising her head, also, this meal is on me. Young Master Zheng was stunned. He didn't expect Ling Qinyu to take the initiative to treat a boy to a meal. However, he couldn't take it back since he had already said it. He could only turn around and say to Xiao Qin, hello, my name is Michael Zheng, a descendant of Lan City's Zheng family. Qinyu rarely treats people to a meal. Brother, you're quite lucky. What's your name? Young Master Zheng purposely told Xiao Qin his clan's name, then extended his hand towards Xiao Qin, pretending to shake his hand. In fact, he had already planned to let Xiao Qin suffer a loss. He was a Stage 3 inner force martial artist, and this kid in front of him was as white and clean as a toy boy. He looked so weak that he must be an ordinary person. With the deterrence of his family, even if this kid suffered a loss, he wouldn't dare to take revenge. However, Xiao Qin ignored his hand and didn't reply. He only looked at Ling Qinyu and asked indifferently, is this person your friend? I didn't expect you to have such a wide social circle. You even know foreigners. What are you talking about? He's not my friend. He's just a classmate in the same faculty. Ling Qinyu rolled her eyes and said unhappily, and he's not a foreigner. It's just that his name is Zheng. Zheng Shiding. He probably thought it was too tacky, so he changed it to an English name. Ling Qinyu thought for a while and finally remembered this guy's name. What did you say? Washing dishes? And it's a name that's still in progress. Xiao Qin almost spat out his food. He was speechless. He didn't know how the Zheng family came up with such a strange name. What's still in progress? Ling Qinyu was stunned, but she understood after thinking about it carefully. She couldn't help but blush and glared at Xiao Qin. It's joy and decision. What do you want? Are you eating? Yes. Qinyu is right. It's joy and decision. It means joy and decision. I thought the name was too meaningful, so I changed it to an English name to make it seem more low-key. Zheng Shiding's face was full of excitement and he felt like he was on cloud 9. He didn't expect Ling Qinyu to still remember his name. He immediately felt proud of himself and straightened his back a lot. Young Master Zheng, that guy is scolding you. The boy with a pointy mouth and ape-like chin was thinking fast. Seeing that Zheng Shiding didn't react, he quickly whispered a few words into his ear. F*ck. Zheng Shiding was furious. He was about to flip the table and beat up Xiao Qin when he suddenly remembered that his goddess was still watching. He couldn't be too rude and unreasonable. He could only suppress the anger in his heart and asked through gritted teeth, what's your relationship with Qinyu? Are you her boyfriend? No. Xiao Qin replied indifferently. When Zheng Shiding was angry, Xiao Qin had already noticed that this guy was only a Stage 3 inner force martial artist, so he didn't put him in his eyes at all. Then how dare you sit with Qinyu? If you know what's good for you, get the F*ck out of here. Don't make trouble for yourself. Zheng Shiding felt relieved and shouted angrily. Oh, I'm Qinyu's bodyguard. Xiao Qin said indifferently. His expression was still calm. Bodyguard? Zheng Shiding was slightly startled, but he quickly remembered the rumor about Qinyu's background. He waved his hand with disdain, then you can leave. I'll be responsible for protecting her. With me here, no one in the school would dare to do anything to her. Oh, I'm a personal expert. I have to protect her at all times, so you should leave. Xiao Qin glanced at Zheng Shiding from the corner of his eyes, then crossed his legs and said leisurely.
What bodyguard? F asterisk CK. Do you think I'm uneducated? A bodyguard is also a boyfriend. Zheng Shiding thought he was fooled by Xiao Chen. He was furious. He pointed at Xiao Chen and shouted, "UF asterisk King, stand up. If you have the guts, come out with me. Let's fight one-on-one. I want to see how much you're worth." Okay, then wait for me to finish eating. Can't you see there's still a pile of food on the table? Now we need to move quickly. After Xiao Chen finished, he didn't bother with Zheng Shiding anymore. He picked up his chopsticks and started eating again. Ling Qinyu looked at him with a faint smile. She didn't stop him or participate. Why yeah. UF asterisk King wanna die. Zheng Shiding felt that he had lost face in front of Goddess Ling. He couldn't help but fly into a rage. He shouted and grabbed Xiao Chen's collar. He raised his hand and slapped down. Dong. A muffled sound rang out. Before Zheng Shiding could understand what was going on, he felt a huge force suddenly attacking him. Then he was involuntarily sent flying backwards, fiercely slamming into a distant table. Not only did the soup and water splatter all over his body, there were even a few leaves on his face. TSK, I heard that there's a female body banquet in a certain country. I didn't expect to see a male body banquet here. You're one of a kind. Go home and wash up. The chili is in. Xiao Chen adjusted his collar and patted the non-existent dust on his hand. He sat down as if nothing had happened and continued to eat. The monkey-like boy looked at Xiao Chen, who looked like he had just swatted a fly. He then turned to look at the unconscious Zheng Shiding. He stood there stupidly, not daring to move. He was afraid that if he moved, he would also be accidentally sent flying by this fiend in front of him. The waiter not far away saw this scene. He didn't dare to make a sound. He secretly went over to pick up the overturned table. The person who was originally eating at that table was promised a new meal and free of charge. He quietly changed his seat and continued to observe the situation. Ling Qinyu was also a little speechless. She thought that Xiao Chen was too violent. Although he was the one who started the fight, he couldn't just openly hit someone in the cafeteria. If this matter got out, how could she continue to stay in school? Xiao Chen, how can you say that you're my personal expert? Ling Qinyu thought of what Xiao Chen said and couldn't help but complain. Aren't you making things worse? Tomorrow the whole school will know that I have a violent boyfriend. No, I'll leave after this meal. Those students won't see me again in the future. Xiao Chen shrugged and said indifferently. Wouldn't that make me the campus belle's mysterious boyfriend? It'll be even more difficult to explain. Ling Qinyu frowned and said anxiously. You're really narcissistic. Who calls themselves the campus belle? Xiao Chen laughed and joked. Besides, you're the one who invited me to eat. Ling Qinyu was angry. She glared at Xiao Chen. Can't you say something nice? Since I'm treating you to a meal, I'm done now. You can leave. Goodbye. At this time, Xiao Chen had already swept away the leftovers on the table. He patted his stomach. Although there wasn't much food, he was 70% full. I'm done too. Thank you for your hospitality. I'm going to perform a mission now. Goodbye. No, never see you again. Bye-bye. Chapter 8:19. With that, Xiao Chen stood up and left. That pointy-mouthed monkey-cheeked guy even opened up a path for him. You. Looking at Xiao Chen's back view, Ling Qinyu stomped her feet in anger, her face flushed red. It was not that she liked Xiao Chen. She just felt that since this person had saved her, they could be considered friends. The two of them could actually become friends. They could even add each other on WeChat and chat when they were free. She treated Xiao Chen to a meal for the same reason. Although Ling Qinyu was welcomed by many students and teachers in school, she didn't have a single real friend. Usually, she was surrounded by many special agents from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. Once someone approached, they would stare at her like a tiger watching its prey and interrogate her. Even if there were normal students who wanted to make friends with her, they wouldn't dare to approach her as time went by. As for those rich kids, they wouldn't cause trouble for her if they had nothing better to do. Ling Qinyu's background was deep and the rumors of her proud and aloof personality spread like wildfire. It wasn't easy for her to meet Xiao Chen, a person she could get along with, but in the end he had to leave after a few days. She treated him to a meal out of goodwill, but he didn't appreciate it. Ling Qinyu felt that this guy's temper was stinky and stubborn. Every time, he would pretend to be arrogant and make her angry at the slightest provocation. He was obviously working under her grandfather, but he didn't know how to say nice words to coax her. He was really a stinky rock. After sulking for a while, Ling Qinyu realized that she had become the focus of attention of the surrounding students and teachers. Zheng Shiding, who was a distance away, was still unconscious, but he looked fine. Ling Qinyu didn't want to cause trouble, so she paid the bill and carried her bag out of the canteen. She was thinking that she must find a chance to complain to her grandfather and let him teach Xiao Chen a good lesson. Only after Xiao Chen and Ling Qinyu left did the pointy-mouthed monkey-cheeked guy wake up from his wooden sculpture. He ran over and shook Zheng Shiding while shouting, "Young Master Zheng! Young Master Zheng! Wake up, Gart!" It was only after leaving Lanqing University that Xiao Chen remembered that he didn't drive his car when he came here. It was still broad daylight, and it was inconvenient for him to use his flying sword as a means of transportation. He had no choice but to hail a taxi, instructing the driver to drop him off near the Research Institute before walking there. At the entrance of the Research Institute, Xiao Chen took out his ID. After the guard confirmed it, he quickly opened the door and let him in. Su Yinda had received the news early in the morning and had been waiting for a long time. "Mr. Xiao Chen, you haven't eaten yet, right? I'll get someone to prepare some hot dishes for you to eat first." Su Yinda warmly greeted. Previously, Ling Tian had already sent him a copy of Xiao Chen's name and appearance. As such, he was able to recognize Xiao Chen as soon as he walked in. However, just as Su Yinda gave a few orders to his subordinates, he was quickly stopped by Xiao Chen. "Professor Su, there's no need for a meal. I've already eaten something before coming here. Let's hurry up and talk about work first." Xiao Chen waved his hand and declined. Although he hadn't eaten his fill just now as a cultivator, it wasn't a problem for him to go hungry for a few meals. Xiao Chen was more worried that young Master Xing would launch a surprise attack. "All right, then I'll introduce the current situation of the Research Institute to you. This way, please." Su Yinda didn't say much. He gestured for Xiao Chen to follow him and brought Xiao Chen to check out the layout of the Research Institute. Xiao Chen carefully observed as he walked. He discovered that there were still a few areas where the defense of the Research Institute was relatively weak and could easily be ambushed by outsiders. Thus, he quietly set up a surveillance array in those areas. After a round of inspection, Xiao Chen nodded and said, There shouldn't be any major problems. Now that everything is ready, all that's left is to wait patiently." "Haha, with Mr. Xiao Chen here, there naturally won't be any problems," Su Yinda said as he happily looked up and down at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen felt nervous for no reason. He quickly interrupted, "Professor Su, you're too polite. I'm a generation younger than you, so don't call me Mr. Xiao Chen. Just call me Xiao Chen." "Xiao Chen. Since you said so, then I won't treat you as an outsider. Don't call me Professor Su. Just call me Uncle Su," Su Yinda said with a smile. Xiao Chen nodded and agreed. He shouted, "Uncle Su." "Good. Very good." Su Yinda's face was glowing. He seemed to be very satisfied with Xiao Chen. "Alright, a while ago I said that I wanted to betroth Chuxia to you. Have you thought about it after you went back? I see that the two of you get along quite well. She often mentions you in front of me, so it's obvious that she has a good impression of you." Su Yinda really wasn't lying. Su Chuxia was usually quiet and didn't interact much with boys. Now that she mentioned Xiao Chen from time to time, it was already a special phenomenon. Moreover, Su Chuxia was about to go to university. Xiao Chen was someone who knew him well. If the two of them could be together, Su Yinda would naturally be very happy. Xiao Chen scratched his head and said awkwardly, "Chuxia is still young, and I have an important position in the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. I won't be staying in Lan City for long. I'm afraid." Before Xiao Chen could express his rejection, Su Yinda patted his shoulder heavily and praised, "Not bad. I admire responsible young people like you the most. You're already much more outstanding than your peers. However, although your career is important, you should also consider your personal life when you have time. What do you think?" You're right," Xiao Chen answered with difficulty. He felt a headache coming on. Just as he was thinking about how to change the topic, he suddenly heard his phone ring. Xiao Chen felt like he had been pardoned. He quickly picked up his phone and glanced at it. He realized it was an unfamiliar number, so he gestured to Su Yinda and walked to the side to pick up the call. "Hello, who's this?" "Hello, Xiao Chen. I'm Ling Qianxue." A pleasant female voice came from the other end of the phone. Ling Qianxue? Who are you?" Xiao Chen was stunned. He already knew two girls with this name. He wondered which one of them was calling. "We just met yesterday. You can't be so forgetful, right?" Ling Qianxue didn't know what was going on and thought that Xiao Chen was purposely making her angry. "What's up?" Xiao Chen asked. I just received news that someone will attack the research institute tonight. Ling Qianxue lowered her voice and said, I sneaked out to call you. You'd better be prepared. Okay, I got it. Is there anything else? Xiao Chen nodded without any surprise and replied casually. Previously, Xiao Chen had already used the array to eavesdrop on the conversation between Ling Qianxue and Yukio Yi Dao, so he didn't think that Ling Qianxue really came to surrender. Even if the sneak attack at night was real, it didn't mean that she was a good person. Moreover, who would call before a sneak attack? Did Yukio Yi Dao trust her that much? Ling Qianxue was a little surprised. What was wrong with Xiao Chen? He didn't seem excited at all. Is my DNA report out? Ling Qianxue thought for a moment and asked. Was it because their report was not out yet? Was that why Xiao Chen was so weird? It's out. You are indeed the granddaughter of Chief Ling, Xiao Chen said lightly. Then why are you? Ling Qianxue was even more surprised. She couldn't understand Xiao Chen's attitude. You are the granddaughter of Chief Ling, not my granddaughter. Why should I be happy? Xiao Chen didn't want to expose this girl, so he decided to play dumb. Why don't you try calling my grandpa? You? Forget it, good luck. Goodbye. Ling Qianxue was so angry that she almost cursed it out loud. Luckily, she remembered her mission and stopped herself. After hanging up the phone, Ling Qianxue took out the card from her phone, snapped it in half, and threw it into the trash can like what Xiao Chen did. Xiao Chen put down his phone and thought for a while. He felt that regardless of whether Ling Qianxue's information was reliable or not, he had to inform Ling Tian and let him make the decision. After all, other than being the superior, Ling Tian was also Ling Qianxue's grandpa. Thus, Xiao Chen dialed Ling Tian's number and told him everything he knew. After hearing what Ling Tian had to say, Ling Tian was a little hesitant. However, he still made a decision in the end. It was better to believe it than not. After instructing Xiao Chen to await further orders at the research institute, he immediately gathered his men and guarded the research institute from the outside to the inside. Furthermore, he set up sentries at all the entrances and exits of Lan City to prevent the attackers from escaping the moment they succeeded. In order to prevent a repeat of the same mistake, Ling Tian even specially mobilized a helicopter to be on standby to prevent the attacker from escaping. Late at night, the research facility was quiet. Other than the occasional chirping of insects, no other sounds could be heard. Contrary to the peaceful environment, all the guards were on high alert and ready for battle, not daring to slack off in the slightest. However, just when everyone was watching intently, a figure dressed in white suddenly appeared near the research facility. After a few casual glances, he let out a cold laugh and easily passed through the heavily guarded defense line. He then skillfully avoided the surveillance cameras in the research facility and silently appeared in the room where the meteoric metal and the forging materials were stored. This person's series of movements were as smooth as flowing water. None of the patrolling guards nearby noticed him. Even the surveillance array that Xiao Chen set up was completely silent. The person glanced at the meteoric metal and did not immediately take it away. In fact, he did not even touch it. Instead, he continued to look around the room for something. Not long after, the person found a hidden door in the room that was hidden very well. Walking up to the hidden door, the person took a closer look and discovered that this secret door required a password, a fingerprint scan, and a retina scan before it could be opened. Chapter 820. The man smiled slightly and his expression was full of disdain. He waved his hand casually and there was a very slight click sound. The secret door opened. There was a lonely stone table inside. On the stone table there was a document. It was stamped with the word confidential, in red and sealed. Ignoring the seal, the man directly tore it up and flipped through a few pages of the document. He nodded with satisfaction and put the document into his satchel. Then he took out an ordinary stone and walked out of the secret door. When he came in front of the extraterrestrial meteoric iron, the man gently shook the stone in his hand. Suddenly, with a thunderous movement, the stone in his hand became the extraterrestrial meteoric iron. The original ordinary stone was now placed in the place where the meteoric iron had been placed. If anyone was present, they would be surprised and open their mouths because the man's movement was too fast. It felt as if with just a slight shake, the two stones had changed positions. The man slowly put the extraterrestrial meteoric iron into his satchel and then walked out of the room calmly. It seemed that he was ready to leave the research institute. After taking 2 steps, the figure suddenly stopped. He stared at the monitoring formation that Xiao Chen had set up and murmured with interest, "Oh?
He actually did something secretly? That saves me a lot of trouble. The man looked around leisurely as if he did not find the formation. He swaggered over the formation. Although he did not know what the formation was, there was an obvious fluctuation of aura here. It should be something set up by Devil Chi. It seemed that it had something to do with Xiaochen. Originally he wanted to find a camera and shake it after he succeeded, but that would feel too obvious. It was better now. He pretended not to notice the fluctuation and walked directly over. He's coming. At the same time, Xiaochen found something strange in the formation and immediately rushed to the place where he had set up the formation. He really came. Hearing the movement in the distance, the man said with a sneer. Then he used his movement technique and disappeared into the boundless darkness. As Xiaochen sprinted, he released his divine sense and locked onto the white dot in the distance. However, Xiaochen was a little puzzled. Wasn't this person showing off a little too much? When committing a crime in the middle of the night, she didn't wear night clothes. Instead, she wore white clothes like a female ghost. Wouldn't that allow others to see her clearly? However, the white-robed man's speed was very fast. Since Xiaochen had already left the research institute, he didn't care. He directly brought out his flying sword and chased after the white-robed man at lightning speed. However, after chasing for a short distance, Xiaochen felt that something was wrong. Why did that person's speed seem to be getting slower and slower? I didn't hear that researching everything would injure him. Could it be that they had set a trap to lure him into it? However, regardless of whether there was a trap ahead, Xiaochen could only pursue it. In the blink of an eye, the distance between the two of them was getting closer and closer. Xiaochen had been looking down the whole time. At this time, he could already see the back of the man dressed in ancient clothes on the road. The strange thing was that the man also stopped at the same time and no longer ran forward. Instead, he looked around. Stop looking around. Are you looking for me? Xiaochen put away his flying sword and directly jumped down from the sky. He stared coldly at the man in front of him. Looking at the man's appearance, he was the one who discovered the monitoring array on Ling Qinshua's clothes a few days ago. From the way Yukio and Ling Qinshu addressed him, it seemed that he was called Young Master Xing. You actually have a flying magic weapon? Young Master Xing was very puzzled. Although flying magic weapons could not be said to be rare in the inner martial world, they were quite rare in the outer martial world, let alone the secular world. Where did this guy get it? Why are you asking so many questions? Hand over the thing you stole, Young Master Xing. Xiaochen was too lazy to answer and said expressionlessly. Although Xiaochen knew that this guy was from the inner martial arts circle and his skills were definitely extraordinary, the reason why Xiaochen dared to say such a thing was that this guy was not fighting or running away. He must have some other plan. Therefore, Xiaochen decided to be more stubborn. You actually know who I am. Young Master Xing was slightly taken aback. He thought of the hidden demonic chi and the demonic chi on Ling Qinshu that night. He couldn't help but laugh coldly. Xiaochen, looks like you do have some skills. I have underestimated you. You are in the realm of the demon general perfection, right? Stop talking nonsense. Since you can't outrun me, then hand over the thing. I don't have time to stand here and talk nonsense with you. Xiaochen stretched out his hand. Xiaochen was not stupid enough to make a move. He did not know the strength of Young Master Xing. If he acted rashly, he would very likely be at a disadvantage. Moreover, Young Master Xing's strange behavior of slowing down made Xiaochen feel very suspicious. Since the thing was already in his hands, he did not want to run away immediately. Instead, he slowed down to wait for the pursuers. This Young Master Xing did not seem to be such a stupid person. Therefore, this further proved that they had ulterior motives. However, a sneak attack was still possible. You still want to ask me for the thing? But I am very doubtful if you have the ability. You bastard. Young Master Xing was thinking about how to carry out his plan without being seen through by Xiaochen, but he suddenly cursed. It turned out that Xiaochen did not say anything and directly threw an ice ball at Young Master Xing. Although he was given a fright, Young Master Xing was quite agile and managed to dodge in time. Feeling the extremely cold ice ball brush past him, Young Master Xing secretly rejoiced. If he had not dodged it, he would have been frozen into a popsicle. Not bad at dodging. Looks like you practice a lot in the circus. Xiaochen mocked. His left hand threw out another ice ball technique, while his right hand threw out an ice ball technique. The two ice balls attacked Young Master Xing from different angles. Of course, Xiaochen didn't dare to use the true Samadhi fire and the fire of the underworld. The extraterrestrial meteoric iron and the forging materials were still with Young Master Xing. If he were to accidentally set them on fire,
they would probably be burnt in an instant. At that time he would be screwed. When young Master Xing dodged the ice balls, he only revealed the strength of a level 7 demon general. With Xiao Chen's current strength he could easily kill him. However, he did not underestimate his opponent because of this. After all, the other party came from the inner martial arts world. Who knew if he had any trump cards? And according to young Master Xing's casual words, "You are at the great circle of the demon general realm, right?" This explained many problems. This kind of surprised and disdainful tone, how could his strength be lower than this? This guy must be hiding his strength on purpose. Actually, he was secretly planning something. I say, are you done? Don't you have any serious moves? Is there any point in using these ice ball techniques? Are you addicted to it? You are the one in the circus. Young Master Xing gritted his teeth in anger. He used the strength of a level 7 demon general to dodge left and right in a sorry state. He originally wanted to find an opportunity to carry out his plan, but Xiao Chen just had to continuously throw these harmless ice balls at him. He could only dodge and not counterattack. This damn guy, he was clearly planning to capture him alive. Oh, then I will stop playing. Watch out. Xiao Chen saw that this guy was not fighting back. This was a good opportunity. So he suddenly attacked. With a dark flame palm and the strength of a golden core cultivator, he slammed it towards young Master Xing's chest. You are just a demon general. What? You are actually a demon king. Young Master Xing was about to mock him when he suddenly felt Xiao Chen's strength. He was extremely shocked. Previously, he heard that when Xiao Chen participated in the selection for the outer martial arts world, wasn't he only a level 6 demon general? That was why he purposely controlled his cultivation to be at level 7 demon general. Who would have thought that the other party was already a demon king? Seeing that Xiao Chen's dark flame palm was about to hit him, young Master Xing's body trembled in a moment of desperation. He directly revealed his true strength. It was the peak of level 10 demon king. However, the moment he revealed it, young Master Xing was dumbfounded on the spot. He was thinking of finding a move to lose to Xiao Chen without revealing any flaws, so that Xiao Chen could snatch away the item. In the end, in his nervousness, he actually unconsciously revealed his true cultivation. It was impossible for them to proceed according to the plan. A great perfection stage demon king lost to a first-level demon king? Too careless. Young Master Xing regretted it. Sigh, it was all because of this bastard Xiao Chen. At this moment, Xiao Chen also felt young Master Xing's peak of level 10 demon king strength. His expression changed greatly. However, there was no turning back. His dark flame palm was approaching young Master Xing. It was too late for him to change his move. Seeing that young Master Xing was suddenly stunned, Xiao Chen simply did not dodge and directly struck out with his palm. While young Master Xing was in a daze, Xiao Chen's dark flame palm ruthlessly smashed into his chest. However, the next moment Xiao Chen was also stunned for a moment. This was because he realized that the feeling in his palm was a little strange. Why did it feel like a soft ball? Ah. Young Master Xing groaned. His face was red as he took a few steps back. Although she had demonic chi to protect her body, and Xiao Chen's mere level 1 demon king strength could not do any harm to her, young Master Xing was extremely angry and embarrassed at this moment. He wanted to tear Xiao Chen into pieces. This lecher, you can hit anywhere but you have to hit my chest. Young Master Xing glared at Xiao Chen hatefully. However, he realized that Xiao Chen was also staring at her blankly. He looked down at his palm, then up at her chest, looking like a silly pig. Seeing this scene, although young Master Xing was furious, an idea suddenly flashed through her mind. For this mission, this was a rare opportunity. She was now a demon king perfection. It was simply impossible for her to lose to Xiao Chen fair and square. However, now that such an accident happened, she might as well pretend to be shy and go with the flow and lose. Thinking of this, young Master Xing made a prompt decision. While Xiao Chen was still in a daze, she pretended to lean back and fall to the ground. The bag that was originally on her body also fell to the side. Chapter 821. Okay. Since that's the case, let's go with the original plan. Go back to the sect first. Once you're back, let's spread the news and proceed with the next step. At that time, we'll act according to the situation. Elder Sun thought for a moment before saying, I'll go make the arrangements. Umph. Young Master Xing, oh no. Young Lady Xing was still sitting on the ground. He snorted coldly and ignored Xiao Chen. In his heart, however, he was anxiously muttering to himself, Are you stupid? Why do you care about me? Hurry up and take your bag and run. Still asking so many questions. I've never seen someone as stupid as you. Was it because he touched her breast that she ran away out of embarrassment? Isn't this a little too exaggerated? He's a demon from the inner martial arts world. Why is he behaving like a little girl? This is too weird. Only me and the other person in charge of the research, Professor Zhao, know about it. His character has been checked by the mysterious investigation department, so there shouldn't be any problems. Su Yinda replied casually as he examined the secret manual. Seeing that he had regained these two items, he was already extremely grateful towards Xiaoqin. There was also a secret door in the room that was wide open. Inside there was a stone table, but it was empty. It should have been the secret manual. Ling Tian picked up his phone and frowned. Even the database doesn't have any information on young Master Xing. This is not good. Seeing that Xiaoqin wasn't talking about him, Su Yinda's expression softened. Since that's the case, I'll secretly investigate the people in the research center. If I find anything wrong, I'll let you know immediately. Xiaoqin nodded. Suddenly, a melodious ringtone sounded. It was Ling Tian's phone ringing. It was a message from the headquarters. This person is young Master Xing? From the inner martial arts world? I'll get someone to investigate. Ling Tian pointed at the man on the screen and asked. Then, he cut out the recording and sent it back to the relevant department of the Mysterious Investigation Department for analysis. Looking at young Master Xing's appearance now, he did look a little feminine. However, Xiaoqin previously thought that he was just a pretty boy. Xiaoqin had never been good at comforting girls. He scratched his head and said, I didn't know you were a girl, or else I wouldn't touch you there. Xiaoqin had already predicted that this would happen. However, he didn't want to embarrass Ling Tian, so he didn't stop him. After all, Miss Xing was someone from the inner martial arts world. Don't be fooled by the fact that the Supernatural Investigation Bureau seemed to be everywhere. When it came to the control of the inner martial arts world, it was still extremely limited. Moreover, she was wearing a mask. This way. Let's go together. Su Yinda immediately understood Ling Tian's intentions and led him and Xiaoqin towards his office. Thank you, Elder Sunday. After Xing said this, she hung up the phone. She looked in the direction Xiaoqin left and sneered. Then she turned around and disappeared from the road. Very good. How did you do it? An old voice asked from the other end of the phone. Su Yinda was also overjoyed. He patted Xiaoqin's shoulder and said, Good. Very good. Beautifully done. I didn't misjudge you. Xiaoqin, you're not suspecting me, are you? I'm the one in charge of keeping the meteoric metal and the forging information. If I wanted to steal it, I would have done so a long time ago. Su Yinda's expression froze. Unless he can bypass the protective metal of the secret door and destroy the wiring in the secret door, Su Yinda said. There's also the place where the meteoric metal is placed. There's a gravity-sensing device underneath. Unless he swaps the two rocks at a speed that even the device can't detect, the alarm will definitely be triggered. Xiaoqin had only taken 2 steps when Su Yinda and Ling Tian heard the sound and looked over. After Xiaoqin disappeared, a figure appeared on the road in the distance. It was little Miss Xing who had left and returned. It sounds like he's an expert. What's the background of the attacker? Did the surveillance cameras in the research center capture his appearance? Ling Tian took in a breath of cold air as he asked in a low voice. Xiaoqin regained his senses and hurriedly waved his hands. How could that be possible? Uncle Su, you're thinking too much. You were with me the entire night, so of course I wouldn't suspect you. I'm just thinking about the other people in the research center. Dead Xiaoqin, I'll definitely take my revenge one day. Miss Xing rubbed her chest and stomped her feet angrily. She then took out a phone and dialed a number. Miss Xing was so angry that her vision turned black. Since you're not going to run, then I'll run, right? It's good that you're back. Ling Tian let out a long sigh. Luckily, he was smart enough to let Xiaoqin come over. Otherwise, there would be no way he could resolve this matter peacefully. Xiaoqin was even more dumbfounded. What the hell was going on? How did a man turn into a chick with a single palm strike from me? I didn't think about it at all. If I knew that this young noble Xing was a chick, I wouldn't have hit his chest. I should have grabbed him. He couldn't understand. Even if Miss Xing was a girl, with her cultivation at the peak of the 10th level of the Devil King realm, she was more than enough to crush me. Why did I have to run? No. Miss Xing hurriedly replied. Xiaoqin watched as Miss Xing ran further and further away. He opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. He could only shake his head gloomily. Don't cry. Xiaoqin didn't know if he should walk over now, so he tried to speak up. Ling Tian had rushed over after knowing that the research center was attacked. He was only slightly ahead of Xiao Qin. And? Xiao Qin nodded his head absent-mindedly. He then muttered to himself, "Looks like this guy not only knows the situation inside the research center like the back of his hand, he even knows about the existence of the gravity sensor. He even destroyed the signal of the pinhole camera. Could it be he has a spy? There is, but it's all from the back. However, I asked someone to install a pinhole camera in the place where the forging materials are stored. It was able to capture some images." Su Yinda walked in front of his computer and tapped on a few keys to open the surveillance screen. While Su Yinda and Ling Tian were inspecting the materials, Xiao Qin suddenly asked, "Uncle Su, let me ask you something. Apart from you, who else in the research center knows about the room with the meteoric metal? What about the secret door? How do I open it?" Xiao Qin continued to ask. Miss Xing got up and angrily yelled at Xiao Qin, "I hate you." She then turned around and ran away, leaving only her back and the bag lying in the middle of the road. After entering the office, Xiao Qin locked the door. He then took out the meteoric metal and forging materials from the bag and placed them on the table. "Only I know the password of the secret door. My fingerprint and retina have to be scanned to open it." Su Yinda put down the booklet and shook his head in confusion. Logically speaking, if there is a mistake in one of the steps or if it is forcefully opened, the forging materials inside will definitely be burned instantly. I found a chance to lose to him, then the things were in his hands. Miss Xing briefly explained and omitted the details. She didn't want others to know that she was attacked. "I'm fine. Everything is intact." Xiao Qin nodded. "Not bad." Elder son praised with satisfaction and asked casually, "Did you encounter any trouble? Your identity wasn't exposed, right? Did he have any doubts?" Xiao Qin was secretly surprised. What is the concept of a speed that even the device can't recognize? Even if I'm already a Demon King level cultivator, I'm afraid I can't do this. That chick is a Demon King perfect stage, but she's actually so powerful? He only appeared in the picture for a few seconds, then the camera lost its signal. There was only a bunch of snowflakes left in the picture. Looking at the bag on the ground, Xiao Qin took 2 steps forward and picked up the bag. He opened it and checked. He found that the meteoric metal and forging materials were intact, so he didn't think much about it. He took the bag and ran in the direction of the research institute. It didn't take long for Xiao Qin to return to the research institute. Looking at Mr. Xing, who was crying in front of him, Xiao Qin was a little speechless. "Didn't I just touch your chest? You're a Demon King perfect stage level 10. How can my little strength make you cry? Even if you cry, you don't have to cry like this, right?" Due to the camera angle and lighting, the surveillance could only vaguely see a person dressed in ancient clothes, but his appearance couldn't be seen clearly. He only felt that his movements were full of pride. "Elder son, it's done." After the call was connected, Miss Xing's tone changed and she said respectfully, "You're back? Are you hurt?" Seeing that it was Xiao Qin, Ling Tian quickly greeted him and asked softly, "Did you get the meteoric metal and forging materials back?" "But I just saw that the place where the materials were stored in the secret door didn't seem to have any burn marks. Is there any other way to take out the materials intact?" Xiao Qin remembered that there was only a bare stone platform in the secret room. Sob 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 sob. After falling to the ground, Miss Xing didn't even stand up. She sat on the ground and cried. She stopped at the farthest place and saw Xiao Qin take the bag and leave. Only then did the big stone in her heart fall to the ground and she let out a long sigh of relief. On the side of the meteoric metal platform, there were 2 people discussing something in a low voice. It was Su Yinda and Ling Tian. "Director Su, where is your office?" Ling Tian was happy and didn't want to stay in this messy place anymore. It was irritating to the eyes. Actually, Xiao Qin wasn't interested in restoring her appearance. This Miss Xing was obviously wearing a human skin mask. Even if she was restored, it wouldn't be her. He came to the room where the meteoric metal was stored and saw that the room was in a mess. On the platform where the meteoric metal was originally placed, there was an ordinary stone of the same size as the meteoric metal. Chapter 822. After chatting with Ling Tian and Su Yinda for a while longer, Xiao Qin took the meteoric metal and the forging materials and bid them farewell, saying that he was going to find a place to rest. After sitting down, Xiao Qin carefully thought of the entire process from the start of the surveillance to his return. He could not help but feel a little confused. All of a sudden, Xiao Qin thought of a daring possibility. Could it be that young Master Xing did this on purpose? Purposely letting me discover her existence? But why would she do this? Although the meteoric metal was indeed a rare metal from another planet, with the forging materials as a reference, there was no need for her to waste so much time. If this were to continue, he would have to leave for Beijing soon. If it was in the past, he could directly use the identity of Yang Jianan to secretly obtain the meteoric metal. Without anyone knowing, even if someone were to ask, Yang Jianan would be the one to take the blame. It would have nothing to do with him at all. Ling Tian knew that Xiao Qin had been spying on him for an entire night and had fought with someone. He would definitely be exhausted, so he happily let Xiao Qin go. He instructed Xiao Qin to rest in the research facility and not to go out again. Could it be that there was a problem with the flame of the underworld? His strength was not enough, so he forged for an entire night without any results? He had been drooling over the meteoric metal for a long time and was too embarrassed to ask for it previously. After all, he was a true member of the Supernatural Investigation Department. Yes, master. The flame of the underworld responded and left Xiao Chen's body to analyze the forging materials. That's right, the forging materials are the most important and cannot be leaked. Thus, I let you use the meteoric metal as a cover. Ling Tian nodded his head. It seemed like Xiao Chen's comprehension ability was not bad. What? Full circle of the Devil King stage level 10? Ling Tian was incomparably shocked. He hurriedly stood up and paced back and forth. Lowering his head, he pondered for a moment. As though he had made a decision, he solemnly said, Xiao Qin, I have an important task for you. I hope you will not reject it. All right. We will do as you say. Ling Tian nodded his head. He had originally wanted Song Huawu to accompany Xiao Chen. However, after hearing Xiao Chen's explanation, he felt that it made sense, so he didn't insist. All right. Although Xiao Chen was a little surprised, he still nodded. He pointed to the meteoric iron on the table and asked, Do you want to send this meteoric iron as well? The meteorite in front of him was an irregular polyhedron. Its surface was dark gray and there were many small pits on it. There were also specks of light scattered on it. From afar it looked as beautiful as the starry sky. Could it be that she was demonstrating to him? She could have left quietly, but she chose to step into the range of the surveillance formation to show that she was much stronger than him? This was simply a moron. That chick shouldn't be so brainless, right? As the saying goes, big breasts have no brains. Just now when he hit them, they didn't seem to be very big. After an unknown amount of time, Xiao Qin finished cultivating. He spat out a mouthful of turbid air and opened his eyes to look outside the window. The sky was already bright. Let's leave tomorrow in case there are any problems. I will get someone to prepare a car for you. Ling Tian picked up the phone, dialed a number and gave a few instructions to the other party. Ling Tian was indeed a little worried. According to Xiao Chen's description, there were already people at the Demon King perfection stage appearing in the secular world. If he let Xiao Chen escort the information to Yanjing, he would probably encounter a lot of trouble along the way. Just now, that chick Xing had successfully succeeded. With her strength at the Demon King perfection stage, if she wanted to leave, she definitely wouldn't be discovered by my formation. Then why did she make such an unnecessary move to let me notice her? Turning his head to look at the table again, Xiao Chen found that the meteoric iron was still the same as before, and the fire of the underworld was still being refined at a steady pace. Putting away his thoughts, Xiao Chen carefully took out the meteoric iron from his bag. He was ecstatic. Xiao Chen explained the process of fighting with young Master Xing in detail. Who would have thought that the wheel of fortune would turn and this thing still fell into his hands in the end? Right now Xiao Chen was extremely at ease. Since Ling Tian had already said so, then he could only refuse. This could also be considered as allowing this piece of meteoric metal to be used to its fullest potential. What do you mean? Xiao Chen was stunned. Could it be that when I snatched back the forging information, it was swapped by that chick Xing? If I hand over the meteoric iron at that time, it should be able to buffer and buy time for Xiao Chen to escape. This can also be considered letting this meteoric iron play its best role. Xiao Chen opened his mouth and wanted to stop him, but after thinking about it, he decided not to. Actually, he could just fly over, but it would be too shocking and it wouldn't be good to scare people. It was more suitable to drive. Very well, then take this and help me refine a flying sword. Xiao Chen pointed at the meteoric iron and let the flame of the 9 underworlds take over. He then sat by the side and closed his eyes to cultivate. Seeing that Ling Tian was at a loss, Xiao Chen said, Bureau Chief Ling, I suspect that the person in the surveillance footage is not her real appearance. She is very likely to be a woman. just now when I chased after her. After thinking for a long time, Xiaoqin still could not figure out the reason. Thus he gave up. Since he could not figure it out, then he would not think about it for now. He should focus on the matter at hand first. So that's the case. That means this thing is useless? Xiaoqin was overjoyed. Doesn't this mean that I can use the meteoric iron as I please? He immediately started to plan in his mind. After a while, the flame of the 9 underworlds shook, as though it had understood something. Master, I know how to refine it. That's not necessary. Ling Tian waved his hands. We are only using the meteoric iron to do some research and to verify some unique methods of smelting metals. Once the experiment is successful, we can apply this method to other rare metals. Luckily, there were many dormitories for the employees in the research institute. All kinds of facilities and furniture were available. Xiaoqin simply found an empty room and locked the door. Although he had made great progress in his studies after becoming a cultivator, when faced with a bunch of physics and chemistry formulas that he had never seen before, as well as various parameters such as heat control and intensity mentioned in the files, Xiaoqin still felt like he was reading a book from the heavens. He was having a headache. Yes. Ling Tian nodded his head, then shook his head. It's not completely useless. There is still some use to it, but it is not very useful. I'm mainly considering that you might meet with experts along the way. If you don't hand over something, the other party might not let you off so easily. The research on the meteoric iron has been completed. Originally, we were going to use the internet to send the forging information to the headquarters in Beijing. Ling Tian said in a low voice. But considering that the hacking technology is very advanced, especially when the research institute might have an insider, we cannot take this risk. So, I want you to personally go and escort the forging information. After receiving the order, the flame of the underworld did not dare to delay. According to the parameters provided in the documents, it started to forge the meteoric iron. Actually, Xiaoqin wanted to get the meteoric iron for himself. Naturally, he did not want anyone else to go with him. What if the other party found out that he did not hand over the meteoric iron and asked him to go back? I say, Nethery, are you forging a flying sword or a roast duck? Are you slacking off or taking a nap? It's already been a few hours. Why is the meteoric iron still the same? What happened to flying swords? Xiaoqin was a little displeased. I understand. The key is not to leak the forging information, right? Although Xiaoqin looked calm on the surface, he was overjoyed. It seemed like he could find a chance to forge the meteoric iron into a flying sword. If someone asked, he would just say that it was stolen. After all, that was Ling Tian's instructions. No one would be able to find fault with it. In that case, could there be other reasons? Xiaoqin was deep in thought. Nethery, come out and take a look. Do you understand this thing? Helpless, Xiaoqin could only summon the flame of the underworld and ask for help. Oh? Xiaoqin was startled. What was going on? However, he still responded. Ling Tian had already put down the phone. He suddenly thought of something and turned to ask, "Oh right, do you want me to send a few more people? As your assistant, we can take care of you when there's trouble." I'm innocent, master. There's definitely no problem with my abilities. The flame of the underworld looked at Xiaoqin's unfriendly gaze and shivered. It naturally knew what Xiaoqin was thinking. It could only helplessly explain, it's not that my abilities aren't good enough. It's just that, this forging information doesn't seem right. Xiaoqin thought for a while and shook his head. No need. It's not that there are too many people. If I meet an ordinary opponent, I can deal with them. If I meet an expert, I won't be able to take care of them. What I mean is, there seems to be a problem with the parameters in this forging information. The flame of the underworld said carefully, afraid that Xiaoqin would get angry again. Picking up the meteoric iron from the table and passing it to Xiaoqin, Ling Tian continued, this meteoric iron is an extraterrestrial material. It's extremely rare and cannot be used on a large scale. So bring it with you. If you meet a strong opponent who wants to snatch it, just give it to him. This can also divert the opponent's attention and reduce the pressure on you. That's impossible. When he brought the information back last night, Suinda had personally checked every page. If it was really swapped, he would definitely be able to tell. After admiring the meteoric iron for a while, Xiaoqin took out the forging information. After flipping through a few pages, he couldn't help but furrow his brows. Got it. When do I leave? Xiaoqin asked after keeping the meteoric iron and forging information. Suinda also nodded his head. And the research center has already completed the work on the meteoric iron. Xiao Qin killed Ling Youxiang and Qin Yuhan. I've wanted to tear him to pieces for a long time. After hearing Feng Canyun's words, Elder Feng gritted his teeth and said, even if sect leader Feng didn't say anything, I would have taken his life sooner or later to pay tribute to my two beloved disciples. He who told you to give up. Others might not know how to refine the extraterrestrial meteoric iron, but your master knows. Elder Heaven Ancestor said leisurely, it's actually not that difficult. You just have to modify a few parameters in the forging data. Could it be that the research institute came up with fake information and even deceived him? But it didn't seem to be necessary. Why would they do that? That's enough, Xiaoqin. Stop thinking about it. I've already made it very clear that this information is used to smelt other rare metals. It's just a method of using the extraterrestrial meteoric iron. Elder Heaven Ancestor's voice rang out. Elder Yu shuddered. Before he could speak, Luo Qifeng reiterated, in any case, no matter what price we have to pay, we have to snatch the forging method before the other sections. Do you understand? If we don't get it, you know the consequences. He could only watch as the extraterrestrial meteoric iron and the frost soul were right in front of him, but he had no idea how to forge them, let alone fuse them together. How could Luo Qifeng not be anxious? That was why he said that he had to snatch the forging method from Xiaoqin at all costs. Alright. I understand Elder Yu's meaning. Don't worry, we will definitely hand over the extraterrestrial meteoric iron and the forging method. Feng Canyun put down the phone that Elder Yu had called. His face was a little twisted, scaring Elder Feng who was beside him. Luo Qifeng, on the other hand, turned around and went to his own secret room. I understand. I'll send someone to do it now. Elder Yu felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. He quickly agreed and left the room. He picked up his phone and dialed a number to start making arrangements. Alright. That's the only way. Xiaoqin nodded helplessly. He put away the information, washed up, ate some breakfast and was ready to leave. Sidu Qitian, that old bastard, purposely leaked the whereabouts of the extraterrestrial meteoric iron and the forging method so that the sects in the martial arts world would fight over it. Then he would reap the benefits. What a scheme. Luo Qifeng coldly analyzed Awakening Sect's thoughts. Yes. He clearly told you, but you still used it to forge the extraterrestrial meteoric iron. Aren't you just looking for trouble? Even if the two of you refined it for 100 years, it would still be useless. Elder Heaven Ancestor said angrily. So, Elder Feng is going to do it yourself? Feng Canyun was a little surprised, but considering that Xiaoqin was a level 6 demon general, it was understandable. In fact, Elder Heaven Ancestor only knew a part of the forging method. He didn't know everything. After all, even the people in the martial arts world didn't know the method. Otherwise they wouldn't have come to rob. However, according to the rules, the people in the martial arts world couldn't interfere with the secular world. Therefore, the disciples of the Black Moon sect couldn't directly rob Xiaoqian's things. The Extreme Ice sect was the representative sect of the Black Moon sect in the martial arts world, and Feng Canyun was the sect leader of the Extreme Ice sect. Ever since he knew that his beloved disciple was killed by Xiaoqin, he had been looking for a chance to take revenge. Now the time had finally come. Public and private grudges, he would settle them all together. After getting into the car, Xiaoqin opened the GPS and checked the direction. After confirming the direction, he drove in the direction of Yanjing. Sect Master means that our sect's ancient records say that the meteoric iron can be used with the Arctic frost. Elder Yu's heart stirred, thinking that he had guessed the Sect Master's intentions. Just as he was about to say it, Luo Qifeng waved his hand and interrupted him. Xiaoqin doesn't just have the strength of a 6th-layer devil general. I heard that he is very cunning. Not only is he the new sect leader of the demon sect, but he is also a member of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. If Elder Feng wants to go alone, I'm afraid it won't be good. The person who spoke was another Elder Liao from the Extreme Ice sect. He was also Feng Canyun's military advisor. He moved the switch in the corner of the wall. With a click, a secret door opened in the secret room. There was a cold air coming from the door. In the middle of the door there was a box made of dark iron. I see. Xiaoqin immediately reacted and quickly asked, Elder Heaven Ancestor, what should we do? I was hoping to use this meteoric iron to refine an awesome flying sword. We can't just give up like this, right? Of course, it wasn't that they had to snatch it because the sect still had some in stock. Therefore, the previous matter was left unsettled. But this time. Not long after, the news that Xiaoqin had the meteoric iron and forging materials spread throughout the inner martial world. The entire inner martial world was in an uproar. People from all the sects were rubbing their palms and getting ready to send people to snatch it. Sect leader, then what should we do now? Elder Yu said hesitantly. Without the sect leader's permission, they didn't dare to make a move. It was said that the other sects were also in a heated discussion. As for that Xiaoqin, I've asked around. He has the strength of a 6th-layer demon general. Furthermore, he has taken on the position of the new demon sect master of the outer pugilistic world's demon sect. He also holds an important position in the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. Elder Yu recounted all the information he had gathered. Inner martial world. Oh, no wonder he can come and go freely in the secular world with his demon general strength. It turns out that the Supernatural Investigation Bureau is supporting him. Luo Qifeng smiled faintly, his expression a little disdainful. Luo Qifeng put on a serious face and exuded a burst of cold air. He said solemnly, word by word, presumptuous. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. Now the other sects are definitely watching, but we can't wait. We have to act immediately. As for the type of car, Xiaoqin didn't care. After all, they were escorting confidential materials. The more low-key the car, the better. Moreover, the performance of this Jetta was not inferior to high-end sports cars. He had already experienced it. Moreover, when he encountered a strong enemy, he would definitely hand over the fake materials instead of just handing over the meteoric iron. Luo Qifeng carefully opened the black iron box. Inside lay a transparent ice soul stone. It was the sect treasure of the Shenin sect, the frost ice soul. Xiaoqin scratched his head as if he understood something. Elder Heaven Ancestor, according to you, we can't use this method to smelt the meteoric iron? Elder Heaven Ancestor thought for a while and said, how about this? You keep this information as a reference. Wait for me to combine what I know with the information, then I'll tell you the details. Feng Kenyun took a deep breath and said in a low voice to the other elder, the people above have sent a message. We must get both items and Xiaoqin must die. Reporting to Sect Master, the news was released by the people of Awakening Heaven Sect. Elder Yu respectfully reported. You didn't ask. Elder Heaven Ancestor said matter-of-factly, I thought you wanted to test your little brother, Nethery. Of course not. Luo Qifeng denied flatly and looked at Elder Yu sternly. You should know that if the forging method is obtained by the other sects, it can only be used to forge ordinary weapons. But to the Shenin sect, it is the most important thing. Oh, then who is this Xiaoqin? Luo Qifeng had been cultivating in seclusion all year round, so he didn't know much about the outside world. Once Xinguo returned to the sect, she immediately spread the news. Chapter 824. He's just a level 6 demon general. When Elder Feng heard this, he thought that Elder Liao was looking down on him and was making sarcastic remarks. He couldn't help but glare at Elder Liao hatefully. He immediately circulated his mental cultivation method and released his strength as a peak 9th layer devil general. He coldly said, Elder Liao is worrying too much. If I want to kill Xiaoqin, it would be as easy as stepping on an ant. Elder Feng, you're really naive. Do you really want to fight against all the experts from the other sects in the outer martial world? Elder Liao sneered and asked indifferently. He stared at Elder Feng as if he was looking at an idiot. Elder Feng was slightly taken aback, but he quickly understood what Elder Liao meant. The news that Xiaoqin had the meteoric iron and the forging materials must have spread throughout the inner martial world by now. The other sects were not stupid. They would definitely send their representatives to fight for the materials just like the Shenin faction. By then, even if Elder Feng managed to snatch the materials, he would not be able to withstand the attacks from the other sects. Alright, how about this? Elder Liao and Elder Feng, you two should bring a few disciples with you and go with us. If anything happens, we can take care of each other. Feng Kenyun waved his hand to stop the two from arguing. He had long since become accustomed to the competition between these two people. These two elders had equal status in the sect, and their authority was similar. Both of them sharpened their brains to climb up, so no matter what happened, they would undermine each other and ridicule each other in secret. For example, the matter of snatching the meteoric iron and the information. If one thought about it carefully, one could understand that if they could get their hands on those things, then Feng Kenyun would be rewarded and promoted as a direct disciple of the Shenin faction. It was highly likely that he would be able to enter the inner martial arts world to practice. His status would also be elevated to become an elder of the Shenin faction. At that time, the position of the sect leader of the Extreme Ice faction would basically be ignored, and the sect leader would naturally choose a deputy sect leader from Elder Liao and Elder Fong, who had the highest authority. Therefore, both of them understood that this mission was related to their futures. That was why they were at odds with each other and wanted a share of the spoils. Killing Xiao Chen and taking revenge were secondary. Whether they could make use of this opportunity to become the sect leader of Extreme Ice Sect was their real goal. Yes, sir. I'll send someone to investigate Xiao Chen's whereabouts. Having achieved his objective, Elder Liao was overjoyed. He quickly cupped his fist and bowed respectfully before leaving to carry out his mission. Now that he and Old Man Fong were on the same starting line, the rest would depend on their own abilities. Elder Fong also knew what Elder Liao was thinking, but he couldn't change the sect leader's decision, so he could only coldly snort in his heart and quickly follow. Xiao Chen didn't know that he had become a thorn in the side of all the sects in the outer martial arts world, or rather, a delicious cake. He was driving on the highway to Yanjing. After driving for a few hours, Xiao Chen saw the sign of a rest area on the road in front of him. He looked down at the dashboard and saw that the gas tank had turned red. He immediately drove to the rest area and wanted to go to the washroom. When he arrived at the gas station in the rest area, Xiao Chen noticed that there was a long queue for the number 93 and 97 gasoline. Only the place for the number 98 gasoline was empty. No one was interested in it. After all, normal cars didn't have high requirements for gasoline, and 98 gasoline was a lot more expensive. Therefore, normal car owners wouldn't be willing to fill it up. Xiao Chen thought for a while, then turned the steering wheel and drove directly to the place with the number 98 gasoline. Although he was driving a Volkswagen Jetta, the interior of the car had been modified. Its performance was not any worse than those luxury cars that cost millions. It was understandable that he needed better gasoline. Moreover, he didn't lack money at all. However, the other drivers in the queue looked at Xiao Chen mockingly. They thought to themselves, how could such a lousy car be qualified to fill up with such good gasoline? It seemed that this guy must be a newbie. Only luxury cars were qualified to fill up 98 gasoline. The owner of this Volkswagen Jetta would definitely be scared to death by the price. He would cry and come back to fill up our gas. Hello, sir. Welcome to our gas station. I'll give you a small suggestion. I don't think you need to fill up 98 gasoline. Just fill up 93 or 97. Not only is it cheaper, but the oil quality is not worse than 98. The staff of the gas station greeted him. When he saw that Xiao Chen was driving a Volkswagen Jetta, he said with a smile. It wasn't that they didn't want to do business, but they were afraid that Xiao Chen would make a fuss when he saw the price was too high. It would cause trouble instead, so they kindly reminded him. It's okay. I'm in a hurry. Just fill up 98. Fill it up for me. Xiao Chen waved his hand. Okay, then please turn off the car and wait for a moment. Since the owner of the car didn't have any objections, the staff didn't say anything else. He gave Xiao Chen a receipt and started to fill up the Volkswagen Jetta. Xiao Chen took the receipt and swiped his card at the payment counter. He bought some mineral water and biscuits from the convenience store at the gas station. He planned to put them in the car to fill up his stomach when he was hungry. Chapter 825. When Shi Yuchuan saw that Xiao Chen did not react at all, he became even angrier. He stomped his foot and said, "Brat, you're in the way, do you know that? Hurry up and move the car away. I'm in a hurry to pick up my goddess." After saying that, Shi Yuchuan raised his foot again, ready to kick him again. Oh. Xiao Chen's expression did not change. He held the car key in his pocket and pressed a red button on it. Then, he looked at Shi Yuchuan with an obedient expression. Hurry up and move. Ah. Shi Yuchuan subconsciously kicked again. As soon as his kick landed on the car, he felt a violent electric current enter his body from the soles of his shoes. Shi Yuchuan's whole body went numb. His whole body was suddenly flipped over and he fell flat on his back. What he did not know was that this broken car in front of him had not only been modified, but it could also release a high-voltage electric current when it was in danger. It could even electrocute someone who had ill intentions. However, what surprised Xiao Chen was that Shi Yuchuan was not knocked out by the powerful electric current. Instead, he was lying on the ground, his whole body trembling. His clothes had been burnt beyond recognition by the electric current, and there was a big hole in the bottom of the shoe that he used to kick the car. After a while, when the spasms subsided, Shi Yuchuan stood up, trembling and in a sorry state. From time to time he would even twitch. Xiao Chen was a little surprised. Logically speaking, if an ordinary person was hit by the high-voltage electric current of this car, they would probably be unconscious for a few hours. Why was this guy not affected at all? F***CK. What kind of F***king car is this? Why is it electrocuting people? Shi Yuchuan finally recovered after a while. However, he found that Xiao Chen was looking at him curiously. He could not help but glare at Xiao Chen, pointing at his nose and scolding him. Xiao Chen's heart trembled. When Shi Yuchuan glared at him fiercely, his body unconsciously emitted the strength of a level 3 martial general. He thought to himself, so he's a cultivator. No wonder he didn't faint. It was just that his hair was standing up and his style had changed. However, since he knew that the other party was a cultivator, Xiao Chen felt that it was better to avoid trouble. After all, he still had a mission to complete, so he didn't want to waste too much time. Thus he lightly said, "Oh, my car is a gasoline-electric hybrid. Maybe it's because the car is too old, so the anti-theft device is leaking electricity. Plus, you kicked it a few times, so it's probably broken. Forget it, you can leave. You don't have to compensate me." F***CKU. Did you drive yourself silly? Shi Yuchuan raised his eyebrows and said arrogantly, "See? This young master is wearing an Armani suit. I've already been electrocuted by your broken car. I can't even be bothered to argue with you. You still have the nerve to ask me for money? Did you pull your brain out when you went to the washroom? Didn't you get a new hairstyle for free? I found that your non-mainstream hedgehog hair looks pretty good. Maybe you'll be more popular with girls." Xiao Chen shrugged and pointed at Shi Yuchuan's hair as he casually made up a story. Really? Aha, you really know how to talk. Shi Yuchuan was stunned. He touched his hair and found that it seemed to have changed. He thought that Xiao Chen was really flattering him, so he proudly raised his head. Xiao Chen didn't say anything. There was really nothing to say to this kind of retarded kid with an IQ of less than 50. Shi Yuchuan was in a great mood. He could not be bothered to bicker with Xiao Chen about being electrocuted, so he waved his hand and said, all right. Hurry up and move your pile of junk away. If it wasn't for this young master not wanting to cause trouble, I would have sent your broken car flying into outer space with a single punch. Do you believe me? I'll move it away now." Xiao Chen secretly cursed, "Idiot." He sat in his car that had already been filled with gas. After starting it, he drove out of the gas station. Shi Yuchuan happily hummed a song as he returned to the Ferrari. He had long forgotten that his clothes and shoes had been burned. Anyway, he had a lot of spare clothes. After he finished filling up the gas, he could change into another set. Rich willful. Fiddling with the rearview mirror, Shi Yuchuan admired his hedgehog hairstyle. He thought to himself, that kid seems to have a point. This hairstyle is indeed more suitable for me. Shi Yuchuan secretly decided, looks like I'll have to get a hairstylist to give me this hedgehog hairstyle. Look how cool. How handsome. However, there was another problem. The Ferrari's body was too short. When Shi Yuchuan sat in, his hair that was standing up touched the roof. Helpless, he could only open the sunroof to let his hair stretch out. From afar, it looked like he had planted grass on the roof of the car. However, Shi Yuchuan didn't think so. He felt that this was the best way to show off his handsome and trendy hairstyle. Just as Xiao Chen drove out of the rest area, the satellite phone in the Jetta rang. He looked at the number and saw that it was Ling Tian. He put on his Bluetooth headset and answered the call. Xiao Chen, are you okay? Did you encounter any trouble? On the other end of the phone, Ling Tian's tone was a little serious. It sounded like something big had happened. I'm fine. There's no trouble. Xiao Chen could hear that Ling Tian's tone was not right. He first replied, then asked, Bureau Chief Ling, did something happen? Just tell me. I can handle it. It's like this. I just received news that many sects in the outer pugilistic world have sent their disciples to infiltrate the secular world. I haven't found out what they're here for. However, I suspect that it has something to do with the meteoric metal and the forging materials. Ling Tian analyzed in a low voice. Now that he had received the news, it meant that not long after Xiao Chen left, the outer pugilistic world had already started their operation. After all, it took time for the news to come back. This was too much of a coincidence. I'm fine for the time being. However, when I was in the service area just now, I met a guy with the strength of a level 3 marshal general. Xiao Chen was halfway through his sentence when he remembered what had happened. What happened? Ling Tian asked. He didn't dare to let go of even the slightest possibility. It's nothing. He didn't attack me. It's just because of my car. Xiao Chen thought for a moment. Although he felt that it was not very likely, he still told Ling Tian what had happened. I see. I think you should be more careful. If you really meet an expert, just destroy the forging materials. Anyway, there's a backup in the research center. It's fine as long as you're fine. Ling Tian frowned and said, I will try to contact the people from the outer pugilistic world as soon as possible to see if we can think of a way to stop them. However, it might take some time. Alright, I understand. Don't worry, Bureau Chief Ling. *CK. As Xiaoqin spoke, he suddenly cursed. He was driving just now, and a red Ferrari suddenly stopped in front of his car. Xiaoqin took a closer look. It was the car that he met at the gas station. He saw that the Ferrari stepped on the brakes to stop him for a moment. Then it sped away quickly. There was even a bunch of grass on the roof of the Ferrari swaying in the wind. Although Xiaoqin was on the phone just now, he had subconsciously released his divine sense to observe the surroundings. When he realized that something was wrong, he immediately stepped on the brakes. The Jetta's tires left a black brake mark on the ground and quickly came to a stop. Luckily, there were no other cars on the highway. The modified Jetta had good grip and braked quickly. However, if there were other cars behind it, it was very likely that it would hit the rear end of Xiaoqin's car. Even so, Xiaoqin was still shocked. What's wrong? Did someone sneak attack you? Ling Tian also heard the loud braking sound through the phone. His heart sank as he hurriedly asked. It's nothing. It's just that idiot just now. He probably wanted to take revenge, so he purposely blocked my car. Xiaoqin stared at the Ferrari that sped away. He was a little unhappy. If he knew that guy was so arrogant, he would have beaten him up. A mere level 3 general wouldn't take long to beat him into 360 positions. It's good that you're fine, it's good that you're fine. Ling Tian's worried heart finally relaxed. In any case, you better be careful. I will try to negotiate with the people from the External Martial Arts Guild as soon as possible to ensure your safety. Alright, focus on driving. That's all for now. After saying that, Ling Tian hung up the phone and went to contact the others. Xiaoqin parked the car at the temporary parking lot by the roadside. After checking that the emergency brake didn't cause any problems to the car, he continued on his way. After driving for another half an hour, although there were many cars coming and going on the highway, the red Ferrari didn't appear again. Xiaoqin guessed that the person just wanted revenge. Since he had made fun of him before, he didn't take it to heart. Not long after, Xiaoqin arrived at a highway toll station. As he was a member of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, he didn't need to line up to pay the toll. He directly showed his ID from the green channel and the staff let him pass quickly. Not far from the toll station, Xiaoqin saw the red Ferrari parked on the side of the highway. There was a man and a woman standing next to the car. The man was the man with the hedgehog haircut. He was talking to a girl next to him with a fawning expression. The girl's appearance made Xiaoqin's eyes light up. The girl didn't look like a model. Her temperament was quite outstanding. Although she was standing next to the car, her eyebrows were slightly furrowed. She didn't look very happy. However, her appearance was still very beautiful. Her beauty was comparable to that of Cheng Menjing and Xin Jingxian. This made Xiaoqin feel amazed. However, for some reason, Xiaoqin vaguely felt that the girl's outline was somewhat familiar. It was as if he had seen her somewhere before. However, he couldn't remember where. Miss Ling, I'm really sorry to have kept you waiting, right? It's all that idiot's fault. He insisted on using 98 gasoline. He even dared to show off in front of me while driving a broken Jetta. I despise people like him the most. Sure, Yuchuan had just arrived at the highway when he received his goddess. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.